Guys, if you are new to my channel, then please subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. Hello friends, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about software testing lifecycle, or you can call it as STLC. So what do you mean by STLC? So it is a step-by-step process to test any software or test any build or application. And in other words, you can say it's a standard process to test any application or software. So there are different phases, guys. When we follow STLC process, there are different steps. So we'll discuss more about that today. So let's get started. So guys, if you remember, we have already spoken about software development lifecycle. So what do you mean by software development lifecycle? To build any software or any application, we have to follow certain process. So what are the different process in software development lifecycle? So let's just recap. So I'll tell you the reason behind I'm talking about software development lifecycle here is will relate with software testing lifecycle, how we can relate. Okay, so let's talk more about like what are the different phases in software development lifecycle. So we have requirement analysis, we have design, we have coding, testing, release and maintenance. So these are the different phases of software development life cycle. Now here you can see we have testing. Correct, testing is the part of software development life cycle. So this is the life cycle of software development, right? To develop any software. Now testing is also divided into different phases. So what are the different phases, guys? We have requirement analysis, which is common in development phase as well as testing phase as well, because whenever we get the requirement from the customer with the help of BA, so that will be distributed to the development team as well as testing team to understand the requirement, to analyze the requirement. So here we have requirement analysis as well in testing phase. So the first phase is requirement analysis. We have test planning, test design, test execution, and defect reporting and test closure. So these are the different 6 phases in software testing life cycle. So this testing process is nothing but software testing life cycle. So STLC is the part of software development life cycle. Now here you can see defect reporting. Correct. So again, you might have heard defect life cycle. So that is separate life cycle. Correct. So this is defect life cycle, which we'll discuss in coming videos. Defect life cycle. So how we can relate SDLC, STLC and defect life cycle? So you can draw the hierarchy like this: software development life cycle and STLC, and from here defect life cycle. So defect life cycle is the part of software testing life cycle, and software testing life cycle is the part of software development life cycle. Now let's talk more about software testing life cycle today. What are the different phases we have in software testing life cycle in detail? So any project has to follow the below phases from beginning of the project to end of the project in testing. So this is what we have discussed, guys. Requirement analysis, test planning, test case design, test execution, defect reporting and tracking, and test closure. So these are the different phases in software testing life cycle. If you draw the diagram, so standard for software testing life cycle, so it could be like this. So test planning, anyway, requirement analysis is common for both development and testing. So that's why I did not keep it over here. So we have started from the test planning, test case design, test execution, defect reporting, test closure, and regression testing. So testing phase is for like to develop any software, or to develop for any sprint, or to develop any feature. So why we have regression test over here? So let's say we developed a build. Okay, the development is done. Now we are testing for build one, and we need to follow this process, this complete testing process. Correct, guys? So we'll make sure after the end of the build, after end of the testing life cycle, that other part should not get impacted, because this is the process for testing lifecycle for build 1 only, because this is recently deployed into production, recently developed by the developer. So we are following the testing lifecycle for build 1. So we'll make sure we'll perform regression testing over here. So make sure other part of the application should not get impacted. Now let's talk more about what do you mean by test planning, test case design, test execution, defect reporting, and test closure. So the first part is requirement analysis. So it's tester's responsibility, guys. So what we do as part of requirement analysis in software testing lifecycle phase. So we have studied the requirements. First, we need to go through the requirements. What are the different requirements given by the customer, correct? By the BA. Identify types of test cases to be performed. What are the functional test cases? What are the non-functional test cases? We need to identify in requirement analysis. Prepare RTM, requirement traceability matrix. So this is very, very much important, guys. So here we'll prepare the traceability matrix, like what are the different requirements. Whenever you get the requirement, it will be like this, like in the business requirement document, we have like business point 1, we have certain features, and then 1.1, 1.2, like this. So we should cover we should go through all the features, like all the requirements given by the client. So we'll keep in the requirement traceability matrix. So we should not miss any of the requirements. So that's the reason we prepare this requirement traceability matrix. So here we'll map with the test cases, like scenarios first, like what are the number of scenarios for particular requirement, and how many number of test cases we are going to write for that particular scenario. So that is the purpose. Here we'll map with the scenario and then map with the test cases and then defect. So this is RTM. I'll create a separate video on requirement traceability matrix in detail. Okay, so identify types of test cases to be performed and then prepare RTM. Automation feasibility analysis. So let's link with the automation part as well, like automation. If we perform the automation testing as well, so we'll do automation feasibility as well at this particular point. So this is requirement analysis. So second is test planning. So it is again test planning is the part of test lead's responsibility, correct? So understand test lead or senior test engineer. So understand the project, scope of testing, identify the resources, schedule, deliverables, approach, and effort estimation, correct? So let me just come back to the previous one. So what is the outcome of this one? Requirement analysis. So here we will get requirement traceability matrix and automation feasibility report. So after this phase, we'll get these two deliverables. Now here, when we talk about test planning, so it's test lead or senior test engineer's responsibility. So we'll go through we'll understand the project and we'll write the scope of testing, identify the resource, schedule, deliverables, approach, and effort estimation. So test planning is nothing but a document, guys. Test plan is a document, and there is another document called test strategy. So how testing should be done, that is test strategy, correct? And this is test plan. Again, I'll create a separate video on what do you mean by test plan and test strategy. So here we have in test plan we have everything, like what is the scope of testing, how many number of resources we are going to have for this particular testing, correct, for this testing life cycle, and what is the duration of the project, what is the approach and effort. So these all the things should be covered as part of test plan. Now next is, so what is the outcome of this test planning? We will get test plan and test strategy document. The next is test case design. So it is tester's responsibility. Design, or in case of automation, script the test cases or author the test cases, review the test cases, and update the test cases based on review and baseline test cases. So baseline is nothing but once when we write the test cases, when we get it reviewed from the when we get it reviewed from the lead or manager, then we will, once it is approved, then we can call it as baseline test cases, correct? Update the test cases based on review. We will update the test cases based on review comments and then get it approved from the test lead or manager, test manager. Last is create the test data. If test environment is ready, then we'll create the test data. So this is part of test case design, guys. Now here we have two things. So first we'll write the scenarios, and then based on scenarios we'll write the test cases, correct? So let's say, what do you mean by scenario and test cases? So let's say we have login screen. Here we have username, password, and submit button. So when we write the test cases for login screen, so login scenario, we can say login scenario, correct? Or login functionality. So this is nothing but the scenario, guys, login scenario. Under that login scenario, we may have number of test cases different, like valid login, one test case, invalid login ID, and then valid password, invalid password. So these are the number of test cases under this login functionality or login scenario. So this is part of test case design, guys. So the next is test execution. So it is tester's responsibility. So set up the test environment as part of test execution. Execute the test cases as per the plan. Document test results, and we will document the test results as well as part of test execution, whether it is failed or passed. And the next thing is defect reporting and tracking. So when we execute the test cases, correct, so we'll report the defects to the developer. If our functionality is not working as per expected, then we'll report the defect. That is nothing but the defect. So we'll report defect to the developers. Map defects to the test cases in RTM. This is what we have discussed about the RTM. So we will map the defects as well in requirement traceability matrix. Retest the defect fixes. So once defect gets fixed, we will retest them and track the status of defect to closure. So generally we use some tools to raise the defect, correct? Jira or any other tool. There will track all the like status of the defects and different status, like based on the developers activities, correct? So this is again separate life cycle, guys. Defect life cycle, as we have discussed earlier. So we'll discuss more about that in separate video, defect life cycle, in coming videos. So these are the part of defect life cycle. And test execution, what you will get as part of this test execution? So we will get test results. This is the deliverable of test execution. Here defect reporting and tracking will get the defect report, correct? Or execution, track the status of the defect. Execution results, here we'll get the execution result or test results, and here we'll get the defect report, complete defect report. And it is testers and test leads responsibility test closure. The sixth point is test closure. What are the different phases in test closure? So we will stop the testing based on all functionalities are tested, no new defects are found, schedule are conducted properly, and no risk in the project. So these are the different outcomes or activities are there or things are there based on which we conclude our testing and test closure report. So after this one, we have test closure report. So these are the different phases of software testing lifecycle, guys. Hope you understand it better. So if you have any questions, then comment in the comment box. And if you go to my blog, guys, go to my blog, Automation Testing Insider. So here I am keeping all the notes under software testing for the manual testing. So here we have introduction to software testing. So just navigate to automationtestinginsider.com and go through all the different notes about manual testing. So this is all for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about what do you mean by test planning or what is a test plan document. But before I start this video, let me tell you one thing, that I have started taking mock interviews. So if you want to give your mock interview, then please send out your resume to my email ID, which is hitendravarma22@gmail.com. So I'll provide the email ID in the description box of this video as well, guys, so you can check it out and send out your resume so that I can plan an interview. So let's talk about today's topic, which is test planning or test plan document. So we have already talked about what is testing lifecycle. So there are different phases in testing lifecycle. We have requirement analysis, test planning, test design, test execution, defect reporting, and test closure. So these are the different phases of testing lifecycle. So here you can see test planning is the part of testing lifecycle, which is most important part of any testing activities. So whenever we get the project, guys, so we'll plan the complete testing activities, which is carried out using test planning. So until unless if we don't have a proper test plan, so we cannot perform a proper testing. And test plan is a document which we carried out all the testing activities as part of test planning. So what are the things which we cover as part of test plan, right? So what are the things are there in the test plan document? What are the different sections? So there we should specify objective of testing. Before that, introduction of testing, right? Introduction about the project, and then objective of testing, scope of testing. So basically we'll discuss about when to test the application, what to test, and who will test. Who will test is nothing but the resources. When to test, the schedule of the testing, and what to test, like what are the items are there for testing, like in scope and out of scope. So these are the different sections of test plan, guys, which we'll discuss in coming slides one by one. There are around 15 sections are there in test plan. It will be more or less as well, depends on the project or company to company as well. So let's talk about first thing, like what do you mean by test planning or test plan. So let's get it started. So initially when we get the project, it is responsibility for a test lead or senior test to prepare the test plan for the project. So who will prepare the test plan? So it is the responsibility of test lead and senior test engineer, senior tester, to prepare the test plan for the project. A test plan is foundation of every testing effort. So this is most important step of any testing activities or any testing life cycle, like test planning. So test plan is the foundation of every testing effort. A test plan refers to a detailed document that catalogs the test strategy, objectives, schedule, estimations, deadline, and the resources required for the completing the particular project. So it talks about test strategy, right? So in bigger projects we have test strategy document as well, which is at company level, and test plan talks about the project level. So this will basically talks about strategy document, basically talks about how to perform the testing, like what are the techniques should be to be used for testing activities to perform the testing, right? And in a small project, this is the section of test plan itself. So test strategy is the part of test plan in small projects. So basically I'll create a separate video on test strategy as well, and I'll talk about the difference between test plan and test strategy. Moving forward, let's talk about one more thing, like a good test plan clearly defines the testing scope and its boundaries. You can use requirements specification document to identify what is included in the scope and what is excluded. So in test plan, scope should be defined clearly, like what are the items should be in scope and what are the features which is not in scope. By creating a clear test plan, all the team members can follow, right, and everyone can work together effectively. So unless if we don't have effective test plan, so it is very difficult to test any particular application if you don't have proper test plan. So the main purpose of test plan is to, just configure all the activities in test planning, right? So all the process should be in proper place. The steps to prepare the test plan. So what are the different steps to prepare the test plan? So the first thing is criteria, or you can say prerequisite criteria to prepare the test plan. So first thing is criteria, and then second is prepare the test plan, and third is get the approval of the test plan from the test manager. Once it is done by senior test member or test lead, then it should be approved by the manager or test manager. So what are the criteria, guys? To prepare the test plan, the test lead or senior test should have the below details. So development schedule. So we should clearly understand like when the development starts for particular project, when the developers starting the coding of the particular project or particular application. So we should clearly know, we should understand the development activities and the schedule of the development, so that then we can go for the test plan. Project release date, we should know the deadline of the project. Services to be provided to the customer, what are the services we are going to provide to the customer. Understand the project requirements, that is very very much important. Understanding of the complexity of the project. Scope of testing, what are the features which should be included and which are not to be included, that is scope and out of scope. Number of resources required. So these are the different things, guys. Another thing is type of testing to be conducted, what kind of testing which we are going to perform for particular project. So these are the different prerequisite criteria to prepare the test plan. So until unless if we don't know these criteria, then it's very difficult to prepare the test plan. The second thing is prepare the test plan. How we are going to prepare the test plan? So a test plan, this is what we have discussed. The test plan serves a blueprint to conduct software testing activities as defined process, which is minutely monitored and controlled by the test manager. So once we define every activities in test plan, so that will be monitored by the test manager whether every activity is in place or not. So that is the purpose of the test plan. So this is how we prepare the test plan in the second part. And third is get the approval. So there are three things. First one is prerequisite criteria, second is prepare the test plan, and get the approval, the third point. Now let's talk about what are the different sections in a test plan. So test plan document has to has the below details, right? So we have introduction, features to be tested, that is nothing but in scope, what are the features are in scope. Feature not to be tested, out of scope. Pass fail criteria and entry exit criteria. What is the approach of testing, what is schedule of testing, what are the test factors. Resources, what are the resources which we are working for that particular application or project. Training plans, configuration management, test deliverables, test environment, risk and mitigation plan, and last one is approval of the test plan. So these are the different things as part of test plan, guys. So let's talk about them one by one in detail. So introduction, so specify the purpose requirement of the project is nothing but the introduction. Like there we'll discuss talk about what is the client name, what are the requirement of the project. So that is part of introduction. Features to be tested, specify the requirements which need to be tested, which are in scope. Features not to be tested, specify the requirement which is out of the scope for testing. We do not need to test, there is a spelling mistake over here, we do not need to test. Pass fail criteria, so I'll provide the notes in my blog, guys, automationtestinginsider.com. do not worry about that, all these notes. So pass fail criteria, so what is the pass fail criteria? So there is a section called pass fail criteria, or you can say suspension criteria in test plan. So if the below criteria is satisfied, then we can suspend the build from testing. If the build is not deployed, so we cannot test the application, the sanity test is failed, so we cannot go for the further testing. if the build is unstable. This is another criteria which we cannot go for the further testing. Wrong build is given, and there is a note here: if the build is suspended, the developer have to immediately resolve the issue and give the modified build. So these are the pass fail criteria. So until unless if these criteria is satisfied, then we cannot go for the further testing. So this is another section in test plan document, guys: pass fail criteria or suspension criteria. Entry and exit criteria. So specify the condition to start and stop the testing. For every level of testing, there is an entry and exit criteria. For example, so we have different levels of testing. We have unit level of testing, integration, system level, and acceptance level. Now here I have given an example of system level. System testing entry criteria. So integration testing should be completed. All the major defect found in the integration testing test should be fixed. The test environment should be ready. Required access should be provided. The development should be completed. All coding should be done at this point of time. So whenever we get the build for system testing, so all these criteria should be satisfied. So this is another section in test plan: entry and exit criteria. Now let's talk about, this is entry criteria. Now let's talk about exit criteria. All the functionalities are tested. No new defects are found. No risk in the project. All the defects are fixed. The testing schedule are completed. So these are the exit criteria. So once these are satisfied, then we can go for the further testing, right? Once all these criteria are satisfied. So this is exit criteria in system testing. Now approach: specify the process followed in the project, like what is the approach which we are going to follow for particular project as part of testing activities, like what is the plan, design, execution, and reporting. So this is the approach of testing should be defined in the test plan. Schedule: specify the testing scheduled are prepared based on development schedule, right? So it should be based on the development schedule, because testing is the part of development activities. We have requirement analysis, design, coding, testing, release, and maintenance. So ultimately testing is the part of development schedule. So when we talk about schedule, so if we talk about the test plan schedule, so we have planning, KT session, design test, execution, UAT, reviews. So these are the different tasks, correct? All the testing life cycle should be listed down here, like what are the activities which we are going to perform, what are the tasks which we are going to perform, like planning of the testing, the KT session to the resources, design the test, execution, UAT, reviews. So these are the plan dates. What is the plan date, what is the end date, and what is the actually start date and end date, action date. You can say action date or actual date. And if you have remarks, we should put some remarks over here as well. So this is important part of test plan schedule. Now let's talk about another one, test factors. So identify the test factors required for the project. Resources: this is an important part of test plan. Resources: specify the list of team resources and their responsibilities, like testing team, development team, project managers. Who is the project manager, who is the test lead, who are the team members, who is the senior team members. So all these resources should be defined in the test plan. So this is another section, guys, important section of test plan. Training plan: so specify any training plan is required for the resources. Okay, what are the trainings, what are the further skills required for the resources? So that should be carried out as part of training plan, training plan section in the test plan. Configuration management: so specify to manage all the project related documents, coding, codes, testing documents, etc. So these documents are accessible to all the team members. So there should be a repository where we can access all the documents or codes. In case of automation testing, we should get the codes from GitHub. GitHub is another one kind of repository where we keep all the documents. We have SharePoint. Nowadays we are using SharePoint, and to keep the codes we have GitHub. So these are some configuration management tools, guys. And there are long back we used to have VSS, Visual Source Save. We have concurrent version system. So the tool provides security version control. So what do you mean by version control? So each time the documents are updated, a new version is created. So if you remember, we have version control. Version, whenever we update update our document, so there should be version created. Let's say this is version 1, there should be version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, like this. So we can access any of the version anytime. That is the main important point of configuration management. Test deliverables. So this is another important section of test plan, guys. So specify the list of documents to be submitted to the customer during testing phase or after the testing. Documents are like test plan, test case documents, test cases, test execution results, defect report, a review report, test summary reports, etc. And yeah, so this is another section of test plan. We have one more, test environment. Specify the hardware and software configuration details over here. Hardware configuration details, the additional software required in the test environment to access the application and conduct the testing. So test environment should be specified, and this is another section of test plan. What are the risk and mitigation plans? So specify the challenges in the project and the solution to resolve the challenges. So the different risks are: required documents are not available, estimations are not correct. Let's say if we don't have requirement like BRD documents, so that is risk. We don't have requirement document from the customer, right, or from the BA team, so we cannot author the test cases properly. Estimations are not correct, delay in project deliverables, lack of skilled resources, lack of team coordinations, etc. So these are the different risks involved in the project. So that should be carried out as part of section called risk and mitigation plan in the test plan document. Mitigation plan is like how to resolve those risks. What is the mitigation plan we have prepared for the different risks involved in the project. And the final thing is approval, sign off of the test plan document. So after preparation of the test plan, the project manager and customer have the review and approve the test plan. And there is a note, guys. So during the planning phase, it is responsibility of a test lead to recruit the tester based on their skills required for the project. So this is very important. So whenever we start the project, so we should hire the proper the skilled resources for the particular testing activities or particular project. So these are the different sections of test plan, guys. So hope you understand what do you mean by test plan and what are the different sections of test plan. So still, if you have any doubts, then please write in the comment box, and please like this video, share it, and if you are new to channel, then please subscribe it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Hello friends, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about what is test strategy and what is test strategy document, and later on we'll talk about the difference between test plan and test strategy. So guys, I have already spoken about test plan in the previous video. So if you haven't watched that video, then please go and watch that video and then come back to this video so that you can understand the difference between test plan and test strategy. So let's talk about first, like what we mean by test strategy and what is test strategy document, and later on we'll discuss about the difference between test plan and test strategy. So what is test strategy document, guys? So it is an outline that describes the complete approach of testing. So if you remember, while talking about test plan, mainly we discuss about when to test the application and what to test and who will test. So these are the things which we consider while preparing the test plan: when to test the application, what to test, and who will test. Now if you talk about test strategy, mainly we'll discuss like how we are going to test the application, how to test the application. How to test the application means what is the approach, what is our approach to test the application. Take an example like how our templates, testing templates would be like test cases, or what are the design techniques which we are going to use. So the complete approach is comes under test strategy document. So let's talk more about what you mean by test strategy. So a test strategy is an outline that describes the testing approach of the software development lifecycle. And a test strategy is a set of guidelines that explains test design. This is what we have discussed, test design, and determines how testing needs to be done. So basically this is the basic difference between test plan and test strategy, guys. So here we'll talk about when to test the application, what to test, and who will test the application, and here how the testing should be carried out. What is the approach that comes under test strategy? Okay, test strategy document. The creation and documentation of test strategy should be done in systematic way to ensure that all objectives are fully covered and understood by all. So this is an important point. It should also frequently be reviewed, challenged, and updated as the organization and the product evolve over time. So basically test plan varies from project to project, and test strategy we will prepare at organization level. So we'll see in the when we talk about the differences between test plan and test strategy in the next slide. A test plan for software project can be defined as a document that defines the scope, objective, approach, and emphasis on a software testing effort. So mainly it talks about the scope, objective, approach. Anyway, I'll talk about this one, and testing effort. So these are the main things about the test plan, like scope, objective, and testing effort. Approach is nothing but whenever we have smaller projects, so test strategy is the part of test plan. So that's why we have written I have written over here approach as well. Whereas if we talk about test strategy is a set of guidelines that explains test design, like what are the techniques which we are going to use to design the test cases, and determines how testing needs to be done. This is test strategy. Test plan include introduction, features to be tested, test techniques, testing tasks, features, pass or fail criteria, test deliverables, responsibilities, and schedule. So these are the different points, guys, which we have already talked about when we have spoken about test plan. Whereas test strategy includes objective and scope, documentation formats, test processes, team reporting structure, client communication strategy, etc. So this is at higher level, like test strategy. So this is at company level. This is a document which we can use in various projects. Whereas test plan depends on project to project. We may use the same test plan, or we may change according to the projects. So like here you can see documentation formats, test processes, team reporting structure, what should be the structure of the team, client communication, how we are going to communicate with the client. So all these will be considered as part of test strategy. Test plan is carried out by a testing manager or lead that describes how to test, when to test, and who will test, and what to test. So this is developed. This is test plan is carried out by testing manager or test lead. A test strategy is carried out by the project manager, and it says what type of technique to follow and which module to test. Now let's talk about some other differences. Test plan narrates about the specification, whereas test strategy narrates about the general approaches, what should be the approach to perform the testing. It is done to identify possible inconsistencies in the final product and mitigate them through the testing process. So generally it talks about the general process, how we are going to follow for particular project, and if you get any inconsistencies in the product, then we may change our test plan accordingly. But if you talk about test strategy, it is plan of action of the testing process as on a long term basis. So that's why I told you that it is developed based on like at company level, right? It is used on a project level only. It is used on an organization level. It is used by one project only and is very rarely repeated It is used by multiple projects and can be repeated a lot of times. So this is mainly for the particular project, and this is at organization level. So it will be repeated based on the I mean based on the approach, and it can be used in various projects as well. Test plan can change, test strategy cannot be changed. Hardly we change the test strategy, so it cannot be changed once it is defined for any particular project. So it will not be rarely it will be changed. So test planning is done to determine possible issues and dependencies in order to identify the risk. It is long-term plan of action. You can abstract information that is not project specific and put into test approach. So these are the differences between test plan and test strategy document, guys. If you have any questions, then write in the comment box, and please like and share this video. And if you are new to my channel, then please subscribe this channel, and thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about what is test cases, and or you can say what is test case design. So this video is all about test cases, guys, where we'll discuss about what is test scenario, what is test case, how to write good test cases, and what is the format of test cases, what are the different sections in test case format, what are the different parameters. And so this video is very important for if you are a beginner in software testing, or if you want to learn software testing. So guys, we have already spoken about software testing lifecycle, where we have discussed about requirement analysis, project planning, test design, test execution, defect reporting, and test closure. So these are the different stages in software testing lifecycle, where we have already discussed about the requirement analysis and project planning. So project planning we have discussed in the previous videos, where we talked about what is project plan, and later on we have discussed about test strategy and the difference between test plan and test strategy. Now today we'll focus on test case design, guys, test design or test case design, where we'll discuss about what is test scenario, test cases, what is test cases, and how to write good test cases, and we'll discuss about the format of test cases. So let's get started. So what is test scenario? Let's talk about test scenario first, and then later we'll move towards test cases. So what is test case, test scenario? Test scenario or test case scenario. So let me take an example. We have this Facebook application where we have login page. So let's say this is login page, where we have username field, password field, and we have sign in button or submit button, and we have sign up button as well. So this is for existing user who wants to sign in, put the username and password field and password, and click on sign in button. So user should able to log in into the application, this Facebook application. And for new user we have this sign up button for new for user registration, right? So what is the functionality here? So we have this login functionality, correct? So this is nothing but one scenario, one test scenario. So what is test scenario, guys? So basically test scenario is any functionality that can be tested is called test scenario. So here this is login functionality which we need to test. So this is one scenario. Okay, another scenario could be this is sign up page, correct? So this is user registration is another scenario. So we have two scenarios over here. One is login functionality scenario, and another one is user registration. Now if you talk about test cases, right? So test cases is nothing but set of actions executed to verify a particular feature or functionality is called test cases. Now we derive the test cases from test scenario, Here we have login functionality. So what are the possible test cases of login functionality? So let's talk about it. So first is valid user, and invalid password. So this is one set of test cases, right? One set of test case of login functionality, like we'll enter valid user and invalid password. And for this test case we'll write the complete steps, guys, like navigate to Facebook page, and user should be able to see the login page and enter valid user and invalid password. Okay, so user should not be able to log in for this case. So that is a test case, set of actions, right? Another test case could be invalid user and valid password. That is another test case. What is the third test cases, right? We have, let's say if we have already registered user, so valid user and invalid valid user and valid password. So this is positive scenario. Okay, positive test case. So these two are negative one, and these two are negative one, and this is positive test cases, right? So we derive the test cases from test scenario. Now let's talk about the relationship between test scenario and test cases. Hope you understand, guys, what is test scenario. So any functionality that can be tested is called test scenario. Here we have login functionality and user registration, and test cases is nothing but the set of actions executed to verify any particular feature or functionality. Now let's talk about the relationship between test scenario and test cases. Okay, so we have already spoken about the requirement analysis. So BA provides business requirement document, and software requirement specification, functional requirement specification. So these are the different requirement documents we have. So how to derive the test scenario? Okay, so we should have some documents, or if you have application knowledge, then we can derive the test scenario. So we may derive the test scenario from different documents as well, like BRD, SRS, or FRS. So test scenario is derived from these documents, test scenario, and test cases will be derived from test scenarios, test cases. So let's say we are testing this Facebook application, and here we have 10 number of scenarios we have identified. For particular feature we have identified 10 scenarios, and there could be 10 test cases or more number of test cases. So let's say each scenario has 5 test cases, so 50 test cases will write for this functionality, for this number of test scenarios. So this is the relationship between test scenario and test cases, guys. So many people are getting confused, like what is test scenario and what is test cases. So this is how you can relate easily, and you can explain in interview as well, if this question will be asked in interview. Now let's talk more about like what happens if we don't write the test cases. One question. Okay, so if we don't write the test cases, so what happens? So we are not able to test the 100% functionality of the application if we don't write the test cases. Why? Because we just randomly executing the application based on our experience, and we have not documented the test cases. So we may not achieve the 100% coverage, so we may miss some functionalities as well. Now another point is, if you don't write the test cases, so what happens is, let's say we are executing in multiple cycles. So in first cycle, let's say we have executed 80 test cases, next cycle we have executed 90 test cases, and third cycle we have executed 100 test cases. So we may miss the functionalities or some test cases if you don't document it, right? So this is the biggest drawback of not writing the test cases. Now the question arises here is, what are the importance of test cases, or why do we need to write the test cases? Okay, so what are the points, guys? So better coverage. So the first thing is better coverage. First point is better coverage of the application. So we'll derive the test scenarios from different documents, and we'll write the test cases, so we'll get the very good coverage of the application. And the second thing is, we can improve the quality of this application, So we'll write better like better coverage of the application, and we'll write, if we write good test cases, then we improve the quality of the application as well, because we will get good amount of defects and good defects, so definitely the quality of application will be improved. Another thing is for tracking purpose, when we write the test cases, so we have proper tracking of the test scenario. We have traceability matrix, where we have tracking of everything, like what are the number of scenarios we have, and what are the number of test cases we have, what are the defects aligned to the failed test cases. So we have for tracking purpose we need to write the test cases. So this is about test cases, guys. So let me just move on to the next slide, where we'll discuss more about the test cases, some theoretical stuff. So test case design refers to how to set up your test cases. It is important that your tests are designed well, or you could fail to identify bugs and defects in your software testing life cycle. Okay, so test case design refers to how to set up your test cases. So it is the complete process of writing the test cases. It is responsibility of a tester to design the test cases. To design the test cases, tester should understand the requirement, identify the scenario, design the test case, review the test cases, and update the test cases based on review. So these are the important points while writing the test cases. And in a team, if we work in a team, so one person may think about it's testing is all about analytical skills, guys. So one person may derive 5 test cases, another person for the same functionality will derive 10 test cases. So this happens in testing. So it is collective team effort when we write the test cases. So we should understand the requirement properly, identify the scenario, and design the test cases, review the test cases. So this is also very important for the coverage perspective. So maybe let's say we have written the test cases, and when we get it reviewed from our peer or from our test lead, so they may have some more number of scenarios where we need to write test cases, or we may change some of the test cases as well. So review is very important when we write the test cases. Let's move on to the next slide. How to create good test cases, right? So test cases need to be simple steps, transparent and easy to understand, and each and every test case should be traceable, and it should be linked to requirement ID in traceability matrix. So I'll discuss, already I have spoken a little bit about traceability matrix, so we will discuss more about, I'll create a separate video on traceability matrix as well going forward. Test cases should have only necessary and valid steps, brief and short. So it should be very brief and short as well, so that everyone can understand. Implement testing techniques like positive and negative test cases in your when you write test cases. Test cases should be written in such a way that it should be easy to maintain, and test cases should cover the usability aspect in terms of ease of use. So you need to write the test cases in a such a way that you are the end user. Okay, you are the navigation and everything you need to consider while writing the test cases. So you should, the steps should be very much clear, guys. So like you are using the application like end user. Different set of test cases should be prepared for basic performance testing like multi-user operations and capacity testing as well. And test cases for security aspect should be covered, for example user permission, session management, and logging methods as well. So even we have separate tools for security testing or performance testing, but while doing the manual testing also we should consider these points as well, like performance and security aspects, okay, while writing the manual test cases. So what is the test case design format, right? So this is the test case design format, guys. It depends on companies to companies also. Some of the columns may not necessary over here, but this is the standard test cases design format. Probably I'll create a separate video also where I'll show you real-time test case design as well, some test cases as well. So this is the format where we the first one is we write the project name over here and module name. Let's say our project is Facebook and we'll testing the login functionality, so login module. Reference document, let's say we are referring BRD document, FRS, whatever documents we are referring, so we need to just mention over here who is the author of the test case. So we need to write the tester name over here, date of creation and date of review, who is reviewing the test case and date of review as well. Now test case ID. So how to write the test case ID? So let's say we are writing for login functionality, so test case underscore, we will write the project name, so this is FB underscore login functionality, so login, so it will be like this guys, test case underscore project name underscore login. So it should be very much meaningful, and then we have number like 001, this is test case 1. So this should be the format of test case. Let's say user registration, so here test case tc underscore fb underscore user registration underscore 002, like this. So this is the format of test case id and scenario. So we'll write like login scenario here, and test case. So what is the test case? So let's say valid user or invalid user, like that we will write over here. The summary of test case, what we are going to achieve as part of this test case, right? So we want to test like test the login functionality with valid user and invalid password, like that. And what is the precondition? So precondition is nothing but the requirement should meet, the application requirement should meet before we are executing the test case, right? So what are the precondition for this one? So the site is up and running, right? FB page is up and running, and user should be user should have username and password, okay? Or we can say like it is connected to Wi-Fi, like testing Wi-Fi. We may have different like Wi-Fi when we work in application, like for different application we have different Wi-Fi connectivity as well. So these are the precondition, like application should be connected, and we have proper Wi-Fi connectivity. And what about the priority? So priority is important, like how important our test case is. So we may assign some priority to our test case, and based on that, when we get the defect, we may assign the priority to we will assign the priority to our defects as well. So we'll give the priority. Test steps. Now here we'll write the test steps. So what are the steps of this login functionality to test the login functionality? Okay, so first one is navigate to FB page, and the second one is enter username and password, and third one is click on sign in button. So these are some of the steps of writing the test cases. Test data. So here we'll provide the username and password which we are using for this particular test case, and expected result. Expected result is nothing but what should be our expected result for this particular test case. So in this case we have invalid valid user and invalid password. So what should be the expected result? We should get invalid password error message. So that is expected result. And post condition, what happens after executing this test case? So we should get error message, right? What is the post condition? What happens after executing this test case? That is nothing but the post condition. Actual result is user should not able to log in. That is the actual result. And status fail and pass. So if these two are matches, expected and actual, so we'll write if they are matching, then it is pass. If they are not matching, then it will be failed, right? So this is the format of test case design, guys. So let's move on to the next, where we'll discuss just recap what we have discussed so far. So follow below steps to create test cases. So test case ID, it is unique number to represent each test cases. It's good practice to follow some naming convention for better understanding and discrimination purpose. Like this is the proper naming convention of writing any test case. Test scenario. A test scenario is defined as any functionality that can be tested, which we have discussed earlier. It is a collective set of test cases which helps the testing team to determine the positive and negative characteristics of the project. Test scenarios are derived from test documents such as BRS and SRS. What is test case? Test case is a set of actions executed to verify a particular feature or functionality of your application. Test cases are focused on what to test and how to test, and test case is mostly derived from test scenarios. What is precondition? The condition to be satisfied to test the requirement, right? So that is precondition. Conditions that need to meet before executing the test case, so that is precondition. Priority, the importance of the test case is called priority. It is parameter to decide the order in which defect should be fixed. Priority means how fast defect has to be fixed is called priority. So we'll prioritize our test cases as well, and whenever we get the defects, we'll prioritize our defects as well. We'll discuss about priority and severity of defects in defect lifecycle. So test step describe. Now let's talk about test steps. So test steps describe the execution steps. To execute test cases, you need to perform some actions. Each step is marked pass or fail based on comparison results between the expected and actual outcome. Test data, it is data created or selected to satisfy the execution preconditions and inputs to execute one or more test cases. We need to have proper test data to execute the test steps. Expected result, the output result as per requirement, as per SRS or FRS, the result which we expect once test cases were executed is called expected result. We have post conditions that need to be achieved when test cases was successfully executed. Actual result, the output result in the application once test cases was executed, and capture the result after the execution. Based on the result, the expected result, we set the status of the test cases. If they are same, expected and actual result, so that means the test case is passed. Status, the status as pass or fail based on expected result against the actual result. Okay guys, so if the actual and expected results are same, mention it as passed, which we have discussed, else make it as failed. And if test fails, it has to go through the bug life cycle to be fixed, which we'll discuss in coming videos. Other important fields of test case template, so we have project name, which we have seen in the test case format. We have module name, reference document, mention the path of the reference documents if you have any, like requirement document, test plan, test scenarios. Author, created by the name of the test author, name of the tester who created the test cases. Date of creation, when the test cases were created. Date of review as well, when the test cases were reviewed. So these are some different other points which we need to mention as part of test case document. Maybe there will be a separate worksheet as well. Generally we used to make in Excel document, and there is a separate section called revision history, where we'll mention who is reviewed, what is the review date, and all those things as well. And reviewed by name of the tester who created the test cases, who reviewed the test cases. There is a spelling mistake over here. Executed by name of the tester who executed the test cases. And the date of execution, when the test cases was executed. Comments include value information which helps the team. If you have any comments about particular test case, the execution comments, or if you're while writing the test cases as well. And once we write the test cases guys, so it's very important to review the test cases. So after preparation of the test cases, review are conducted to ensure the completeness and correctness of the test case. So completeness is nothing but, let's say one team member written the test cases, and it is getting reviewed by the another team member. So he or she may have some more number of may come up with more number of scenarios. So that is nothing but the completeness, whether it is the written by the first tester completed or not, right? So it will be checked in the review process checks the completeness of the test cases, and correctness, whether those steps are correct or not, that will be taken care based on this review process. So this is all about today guys. So if you have anything if you have any questions, then please comment it, and please like this video, share it, and subscribe the channel if you are new to my channel. Then Then this is all about today, guys. So thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to showcase you the test case template, the real-time test case template, guys, which you can see right now in my screen. So in the last video we have spoken about test case design, what is test scenario, what is test case, and how to write test cases. Also we have seen the format of the test case. So today I'm going to showcase you the real-time test case template which we are using while working in any company. So this is the standard template, guys, which we are following in any company when we work for any company. So format might be different here and there, but mostly this is kind of standard template, so you can refer this. So this video is very important for beginners who working as a manual tester in any company as a beginner, and this is very important who wants to learn software testing. So as part of this template, I have captured couple of test cases for Facebook application, guys. So which we are going to talk about it, like what are the test cases I have captured over here, couple of test cases. And this template has 4 tabs, 4 worksheets. We have summary of the test cases, what are the details about the project and testing. We have summary tab, we have functional testing tab where we have written the test cases. We have defect tab as well, defects, where in case if you don't have any defect tool in your company, then you can utilize this worksheet for to raise the defects. And we have regression testing tab as well, where you can capture your regression suite and execute your regression cases as well. So let's talk about one by one all the tabs which we have captured over here. So we have summary as part of this template, okay, and here we have written couple of test cases of Facebook application. Okay, so here we have project name. In summary tab we have project name or number. So since we are using Facebook application, so simply you need to mention project name or project number. So let's say we have project Facebook, this is project name. Let's say we have given some number, so project Facebook 01 is my project number. Test case authoring date, so what is the date which you have started authoring the test cases. What is the application, again you need to mention over here Facebook application. And authoring effort, what is the effort you put while writing the test cases, so you need to mention over here like 30 minutes. And execution effort, once test cases have been written, now you are executing the test cases, so what is the execution effort over here. So this is kind of summary of all the testing effort, testing fees, right. Plan author, who written the test cases, you need to mention the tester name over here. So let's say tester 1 written this test cases. Now test case execution date, what is the execution date, what is the version, what is the environment you are performing on, test environment or dev, you need to mention over here. And execution time, again actual time, what is the execution time over here, so you can put it over here, what is the execution time over here. And executed date is done. Executed by, who executed the test cases, so let's say tester 2 executed these test cases, so you need to mention in this particular section about the who executed the test cases. Now what next, we have test status as well, so you need to put the status like it is in progress or completed or pending, whatever status of your testing you need to put over here. Scope of the testing, again you need to put in this particular section. Test purpose or objective, what is the objective of your testing, you need to mention. Setup requirements or considerations, so if you have some considerations or requirements, you need to put it over here. Notes or special instruction while testing, so again you need to mention here. Database changes, hard work or network specification, you need to mention over here. Items not included in the test, whatever the requirements which are out of scope, you need to mention over here. Which are in scope, you need to mention over here. Out of scope, right. Assumptions while testing, you need to mention here. So worksheets in test plans, what are the, so you can say this is kind of mini test plan as well, guys, because we are putting all the all the testing details over here. So you can say this is mini test plan as well, this template particularly. And all the projects should have functional testing, regression testing, worksheet. So we have functional testing and regression testing, and new worksheet can be added in case of multiple modules. So if you have multiple modules to test, so you can add extra worksheet as well. Defect list, so we have defects tab. Now let's talk about the next worksheet, which is functional testing. So we have seen what is the naming convention of our test. Okay, so we put all the test cases over in this particular worksheet. So the first column is test script. So we have seen in the last video, guys, what is the naming convention. So test case TC, and name of the project, and what is the functionality which we are going to test, login functionality, and 001 is the number, test case number. The second column is requirement. So let's say we are referring business requirement document where we have different business requirement points. So it belongs to 1.1. So you need to mention business, what is the BR number, and script description, what is the script description of your test. So verify login functionality of Facebook login page with valid user and password. So this is the summary of like script description about your test case. Systems, so FB login page, prerequisite or precondition. So system should be connected to internet, that is the first criteria. And second thing is FB site should be reachable, up and running. And now we have next column as step number. So we have written all the steps over here. So the first step is open the FB site, which this is the site, guys. So we need to open this FB site, and as part of test data we have just provided the URL, whatever URL like username, password. Here we have provided username, password, and here we have URL as test data, right? We need to provide the staging environment URL, or wherever we are executing our test cases, like dev environment or testing environment or staging environment, we need to provide the URL. So what is the expected result against this one? Step description. User should be able to open the URL when we follow these steps. Open the FB site, so user should be able to open the URL. Next is actual results. So this is expected results, we are expecting this behavior, and actual results, URL is opened successfully. And last column is status. So if expected result is matching with actual results, then status should be passed. It should be passed, right? So if both are same, then it should be passed. In case if it is not matching, if actual result is not matching with expected, then we need to mention it as fail. Now let's talk about the next step. Verify the login page. So let me just open the Facebook login page, facebook.com. So this is the Facebook login page, guys, where we need to enter email address or phone number and password, and we have login button, and we have create new account as well, forgotten password as well. So this is the login page of Facebook, and here you can see verify the login page in step number 2. What are the expected result we should get when we when we navigate to login page? So the email address or phone number text box should be displayed, password text box field should be present, login button should be present. So these are the expected results on login page, right? And corresponding we should have actual results. So email address or phone number text box are displayed, and corresponding we need to write for every actual results, guys. So here you can see the email address or phone number text box should be displayed. So in the this is for the first point, actual result corresponding to the expected result. For the second one, password text field should be present. So password text box is present. Third one is login button is present. So these are the actual results, and all are matching with the expected result, so we'll make it as pass. Third one is enter valid username and password. So we need to enter valid username and password as part of our test case. So this is the test data, username and password, and user should be able to enter user should be able to enter username and password. What is the actual result? Username and password entered successfully, and status is pass. what is the last step? Click on login button. After entering the username and password, we need to click on login button. So here we have written user should be able to log in into the FB application, and user is logged in successfully, that is passed, because expected result is matching with actual results. And this is part of first case, test case, guys. Now if we talk about the next test case, we have new account creation. So test case underscore FB underscore new account creation 002. So here you can see, after entering username and password, click on login button. Okay, sorry, for new user, this is for existing user, and suppose you don't have account, so you need to create the account. So you need to click on this create new account button. So sign up page should be displayed, this pop-up window should be displayed when you click on this create new account. So here I have written verify new account creation in FB application, FB sign up page as part of this column. Now what are the prerequisites? System should be connected to internet, FB site should be reachable, up and running, and user should have valid email address or mobile number. So then only you should be able to sign up. When you have valid email address or valid mobile number, then only you should be able to sign into, then you can sign into Facebook page or Facebook application, right? Until unless if you don't have a valid email address or mobile number, because it will send you some OTP for verification on your mobile number and email address or email address. Okay, so these are the steps as part of these test cases, guys. The second test case, so you can just go through it, which I have written over here. User should be like, first couple of points are same, I guess. Verify create new account button on login page. So here we have, and corresponding we have actual results and status of our test cases. So this is all about test case template, guys. So if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment box if you have any doubts. So this is all about today. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to cover an important topic, that is test design testing techniques, and this is an important interview question as well. So guys, earlier we have covered what do you mean by test scenario, what is test case, and how to write the test cases, and I have shown you the format as well. We discussed about real-time test template as well. Now today we'll focus on what are the different test design testing techniques available. Now if you see the process, guys, whenever we get the requirement from the customer, like business requirement document or FRS, so we have different requirement points, right? Business requirement points. Then we need to convert them into test scenarios. We derive the test scenarios. From test scenarios we write the test cases, right? Different test cases. So this is the simple process which we used to follow. Then the question arises here is why we go for test design testing techniques, correct? If you write the simple, if you cover all the BR points, business requirement documents, and when we cover them to test, when we cover all the scenarios and written the test cases, then why we go for test design testing techniques? So there are a couple of points, guys, which and that is the reason we go for test design testing techniques. So what are those points? Those are important points. The first one is better coverage of your testing, better coverage of all the scenarios, right? So using these techniques we can cover maximum number of scenarios, and we can derive the maximum number of test cases, like all the permutation and combination. So our test cases will have the better coverage. So that is one of the reasons. And the second reason is to write effective test cases. Effective test cases. So to write effective test cases we need test design testing techniques. So what do you mean by effective test cases, guys? So using these techniques we can write some test cases in such a way that it will find maximum number of defects or good defects. So that is nothing but the effective test cases. So these are the two important points, and because of that we go for test design testing techniques, and that these 2 points are very, very important in testing. So let's talk about what are the testing techniques available, guys, test design testing techniques. So we have boundary value analysis. So this is the first one, boundary value analysis. We have equivalence class partitioning. Third is decision table testing. state transition, and fifth one is error guessing testing. So these are the 5 types of test design testing techniques, guys. So let's talk about each one of them in detail from coming slides, from the next slides. So let's talk about boundary value analysis. So the technique is specified to validate the boundary validations, correct? So the name itself says boundary value analysis. So we test the application on for particular field, we test on boundaries, right? So that is nothing but boundary value analysis. It is based on testing at the boundaries. We will be testing both the valid and invalid input values in the boundary value analysis. Now conditions are like maximum, minimum and maximum, minimum -1, maximum -1, minimum +1, maximum +1. So these are the 6 conditions. So let me give you an example so that you can understand better. So let's say, guys, you are applying for a job in any company's portal. You are applying for a job and you are entering your details, all the information there in the form, like first name, last name, and we have some email address. So similarly, we have one age field as well, age input box. There you need to specify the age as well. And for this particular job, we have age criteria. So like from 20 to 35. If you have falling in this category, like 20 years to 35 years, then you can apply for this job. So it should throw an error if you enter like if you are 19 years old or if you are 36-year old, correct? So this is the basic application, like basic criteria for this particular form. Now how you derive the test cases, boundary value analysis, how do you do that, right? So minimum point is, let's say minimum is, our minimum value is 20 and maximum is 30, correct? And we have condition minimum -1. So what is minimum -1? 20 -1, 19. 20 + 1, minimum +1, 21. How about the at maximum side? Maximum -1, 34. Maximum +1, 36. So these are the 6 test cases, guys. From here we derive the 6 test cases. So no need to test each and every value like 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 like that. So we derive the test cases based on boundary value, like based on these minimum and maximum values. So these are the conditions like minimum +1, minimum -1, minimum +1, maximum -1, maximum +1. And you can consider like this is x, this is y. So this is x -1, this is x +1, and this is y +1, and this is y -1. So what are the invalid conditions over here? Like, so 19, it should not take 19, correct? And 36, all are positive test cases. All, it should accept all the values like 20, 21, 34 and 35, because this is under this criteria, 20 to 35 range. And why we go for this boundary value analysis? Why do we need? So what happens is developer generally make a mistake while developing the application. So let's say for this particular scenario, let's say while putting the criteria, while putting the condition, like if else, if they have mentioned like if age is greater than 20. So let's say if developer put the criteria like this, if age is greater than 20, so it should accept above 81 only, right? Based on this condition. So we should specify like age is greater than or equal to. So it should take 20 as well. So that is the reason we generally do boundary value analysis. Using these testing techniques, we write the test cases based on boundary values. So this is an example of boundary value analysis, guys. So let's move on to the next slide where I'll talk about another example of boundary value analysis. So password field accepts 6 to 32 characters, then we only test for minimum 6, maximum 32, minimum -1 5, minimum +1 7. Similarly, we have maximum side. So it should take 6 to 32. So what are the invalid values here? So minimum -1, this is invalid, and maximum +1, this is invalid values. All, it should take all the characters like 6 characters, 6 digit, 7, 32 and 31, correct? And the next one is these 6 conditions are enough for password field testing. So we derived 6 test cases for this password to validate this password field. Now let's talk about the next, guys. So next one is equivalence class partition. What do you mean by that? So the technique is specified to test the valid and invalid combination. So what do you mean by that? The idea behind this technique to divide a set of test conditions into groups or sets that can be considered the same. So let's say we have range of values, we have different sets of or different range of values. So we divide them into different partitions. So that is part of this equivalence class partitioning. Now each partition we take one value and we will test the our application. So I'll take an example as well. I'll give you an example. It is a black box testing technique or a specification based testing technique in which we group the input data into logical partitions called equivalence classes. So now let me give you an example, guys. So suppose you have an input field which takes the values from 0 to 500. Now you cannot test each and every values, right? Let's say 1 to 500. Just take an example like 1 to 500. Now you cannot test each and every values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 500. So how you divide into different equivalence class partition, right? How you do the partitioning over here. So let's say we have like 500 minus 500 to 0, 1 to 100, 100 to or 101, 101 to 200, 201 to 300, 301 to 400, and 401 to 500, and 501 to 600. So these are the possible scenarios, and we can take, these are the different partitions, guys. So minus 500 to 0. So we'll take one value from minus 500 to 0. So let's say we'll test for minus 200. This is one value. 1 200 will take only one value. So let's say we are going to take 50 from here. 101 to 200 will take let's say 151. 200 to 300 we will take 210. 301 to 400 will take 350. Similarly, we'll take between 401 to 500 and 501 to 600. So these are the different partitions, and we'll take only one values. So how many number of test cases we derived? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Only 7 test cases. We'll test only for 7 values. Now let's see like what are the positive test cases and what are negative here. So minus 500 to 0 is this, it should not accept this one, right? Because the range is from 1 to 500. So this is invalid, or this is invalid value for this particular testing, right? 1 to 100 it should accept, 100 to 200, 201 to 300, this is also good test data. 301 to 400, 401 to 500, that is also, and this is again kind of negative scenarios, 501 to 600. So out of 7, 5 is positive test cases and 2 is negative. So this is how you can derive the test cases based on equivalence class partitioning. Let's talk about another example in the next slide, guys. Any mail ID fields accepts alphanumeric data, correct? So what are the valid data here? A to Z. A to Z is valid data. All special characters are invalid data. A to Z uppercase and A to Z smaller case, and 0 to 9 alphanumeric, since it is alphanumeric, alpha and numeric, right? Alphabetical and numeric values. So all these are valid data and this is invalid data, all special characters. If a text field accepts 1000 to 500, the partition should be, what are the partitions, different partitions over here. So valid data we have 1000 to 1500, and invalid if you see A to Z, because this is numeric only, and A to Z in uppercase, number less than 1000 and number greater than 1500, and all special characters. So these are the different partitions, like here we have 2 and 3, 5 and 6 partitions we have divided, and only which this is the valid data. So this is how, this is another example of equivalence class partitioning, guys. This is another couple of examples. Now let's talk about decision table testing. This is an important test design technique, guys. Decision table testing is software testing technique used to test the system behavior for different input combinations. So generally what happens is we test for different input combinations, and one side we have different input combinations, another side we have different rules based on those combinations, right? So I'll talk about that in detail in the next slide. In this methodology, the various input combinations and the accompanying system behavior are tabulated. So based on combinations, different input combinations, and what is the behavior, right? System behavior are tabulated. So in tabular format we write the we design the test cases. We'll derive test cases from that tabular format, from that table, right? So this is systematic approach. And decision table testing is black box test design technique, guys. Behavioral, or you can say behavior based testing technique. When a system has complex business rules, then the decision table testing technique helps in identifying the correct test cases. When we have complex business rules, then we go for decision table testing. We have different input combinations, and based on that we have different rules. Then we derive in this tabular format, will derive different test cases from that tabular format, from that table. Let's take an example of this decision table, guys. So how to create a login screen decision based table. Let's make a login screen with decision table. So a login screen with user ID and password input boxes and submit button. So whenever we see the login screen, so we have a username field, password, and then we have submit button. The condition is simple. If the user provides correct username and password, then user will be redirected to home page. If any of the input is wrong, like username or password, an error message will be displayed. So this is an example of decision table testing. So how do we derive the test cases? Based on decision table, right? So we have conditions over here. In this first column we have conditions. So we have username, T is nothing but true and false. Here we have true and false, password true and false, and output error or home page. Now let's talk about rule 1, what it says. So username we have true, password we have true, then we should get to the home page. When we enter correct username, correct password, then we should get home page, right? When we click on submit button after entering correct username and correct password. What about rule 2, what it says? If username is correct but password field is wrong, password is wrong, then we should get error message. What rule 3 says? If username is false and password is correct, username is false and password is correct, then we should get error message again. And if both are wrong, right, username and password both are incorrect, then we should get error message. So these are the different rules, guys, and from here we can derive 4 number of test cases. This is first, second, third, and fourth test cases, right? So this is about decision table testing. So what we have learned from here, what is our interpretation, what are the different test cases? Username and password both were correct. User navigated to home page. Username was correct but the password was wrong. The user shown an error message. Third is username was wrong but password is correct, then user shown the error message. And last one is if both are incorrect, then we should get the error message. So while converting these two test cases, we can create 2 scenarios. First one, so to create these four test cases, right? So there are basically, if you see, there are 2 scenarios generally. So one is enter username and password correct, and click on submit button. So that is positive test cases. And negative, we have 3 scenarios: username and incorrect password. So these 2 are 2 scenarios. One is correct username and password, and another one is either one of them is wrong. So this is how we derive 4 test cases using decision table. Now let's talk about state transition. So state transition helps to analyze behavior of an application for different input conditions, guys. So in this state test, outputs are triggered by changes to the input condition or changes to the state of the system. In other words, tests are designed to execute valid and invalid state transitions. So basically we test on different like valid and invalid states of any system. So this is when we have any application which has sequence rules, right? I mean sequence when we have some sequence, then this test design techniques is very useful. So take an example. It is black box testing, which is used for real time system with various states and transition involved. So what happens, let's say, let me give you an example so that you can understand whatever we have discussed here in theoretical, right? So let's say you are going to ATM and you insert your card, you want to withdraw the money. So what happens if you insert the card and enter the wrong password? So it will ask you to enter the password again. Your password is incorrect, so it will ask you to enter the password again. And from here, if you enter the correct password, then you will navigate to the you will be able to withdraw the amount. And in this second attempt, again you will if you are not able to enter the correct password, then it will go for the third. Again, if you enter the wrong password, then again it will go for the next attempt. So I think maximum it will be allowed 3 attempts to enter your password. So these are the different states, guys. So this is like here, from here, if you in the first attempt we have tried, right? So it goes to the next attempt, and there are a couple of states over here. One is valid, where when we enter the correct password, then we should be able to get our money, and if you enter the wrong password, then it will try for the next attempt. So this is an example of state transition. Let's understand this in the next slide in detail. Yeah, so when to use state transition? So this can be used when a tester testing the application for finite set of input values. So this is the one of the criteria for state transition, like we should have some finite set of input values when we have sequence of events that occur in associated conditions that apply to those events. So take an example of that which I have given you of ATM machine. So there we have finite set of input values, right? We know like 3 times it will allow, and the 4th attempt it will block my card, correct? This will allow the tester to test the application behavior for a sequence of input values. When to not rely on state transition? So when the testing is not done for sequential input combination. So when we don't have any sequence in particular sequence, then we cannot go for this state transition, because in sequence, like when we withdraw the money, so this is in particular sequence, right? When we enter the correct password or incorrect password, there are certain stages or certain state. So this is kind of particular sequence. So when testing is not done for sequential input combination, then we cannot go for this state transition. If the testing is to be done for different functionalities like exploratory testing, then we cannot go for this state transition. So take an example for this state transition, guys. So let's consider a login page function where if user enters invalid password 3 times, the account will be logged. Correct? Take an example of that, the previous example which I have given, ATM machine, or if you are logging any screen. So it will also allow like 3 times to enter the correct password if you are entering the wrong password multiple times. So in this system, if user enters a valid password in any of the first 3 attempts, the user will be logged in successfully. If the user enters the invalid password the first or second try, the user will be asked to re-enter the password. And finally, if the user enters incorrect password 3rd time, the account will be blocked. So how we derive this state transition table, guys? So we have different states over here. Start S1 start, S2 first attempt, S3 second attempt, S4 third attempt, like that. S5 granted, access granted, and S6 account blocked. So how you can let me just explain it better. So let's say we have different states over here: S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, and S6. So these are the different states, guys. So the first one is start. When we start, so when we enter the correct password in S1 and in S1 state, so it will go to S5 state directly. S5 is nothing but granted, access granted. So we should be able to access the application. If we enter the wrong password, so there are 2 conditions in each and every state. So in this first state, if we enter the correct password, then we go to S5. If we enter the wrong password, then we go to S2. S2 is first attempt, correct? First attempt. Now again here 2 conditions. If we enter the correct password, we'll go to S5, otherwise we'll move to S3. S3, again we have 2 conditions. If we enter the correct password, we'll go to S5, otherwise S4. Now what happens at S4? S4 we have third attempt. If we enter the correct password, S4 will go to S5, obviously correct. And if we enter the incorrect password, so we'll go to S6. What is S6? Account blocked. Your account will be blocked based on multiple times you have tried with incorrect password. So this is state transition, guys. Now let's talk about the next one. So in this table, when we enter the user enters the incorrect pin, enter the correct pin, state is transition to S5, which is access granted. And if user enters a wrong password, he moves to the next state. If he does not, if he or she does the same third time, it will reach the account blocked state. So these are the different state, right? We have access granted state and we have account blocked, and it gives previous different states as well, like S2, S3, S4, which we have discussed. Now let's talk about error guessing testing, guys. So already I have covered a video on this one, so you can go to the playlist and you can watch that particular video on error guessing testing technique. So what it says, let me just give a brief about error guessing testing. So testing is conducted by performing invalid operations and validate the error message is displaying or not. So this is kind of experience based testing, guys. So if you have very good knowledge on application, or if you are experienced tester, or if you have very good analytical skills, so that then you can use this testing technique. Like you will assume in any application, like what is invalid operation when I perform, so what the error message I should get, right? So it's based on error guessing. You are guessing the error, like if I performing this action, so I should get particular message. So the error message should be meaningful to understand. So when we perform some operations like valid or invalid operations, generally invalid operations when we perform based on this testing technique, so we should get a proper error message. So it is a type of testing method in which prior experience in testing is used to uncover the defects in software testing, right? In the software, it is an experience based testing technique in which the tester uses his or her past experience or intuition to gauge the problematic areas of software application. So this is the main purpose, like when you have good experience or you use your past experience, then you can gauge more number of like problematic areas of the application. Let's take an example of this error guessing testing, guys. So we need to test a program which reads a file. So what happens if the program gets a file which is empty or the file does not exist? So whenever we test, let's say we are uploading a file in the system, and simply we'll upload a file and we'll verify whether it is working or not, whether it is taking that file or not. But we should also think about, like, if we upload empty file, then what will happen if the file does not exist, and if you try to upload it, what will happen, something like that, right? So this is an example of error guessing testing. Another one is enter blank space into text field. Let's say this is the text field, and suppose I'm entering my name Hitendra underscore, like I'm giving a space and Verma. So what will happen, right? Sometimes developer develop the application in such a way that there should not be any space in the text field. So we should consider we should test these kind of scenarios as well as part of error guessing. And if you enter like this, then what should be the error message, like the name is not proper or incorrect name, something like that, we should get the error. Use maximum limits of files to be uploaded. This is another example of error guessing testing, guys. So these are the different testing design techniques, guys. 5 testing design techniques we talked about. So if you have any doubts or if you have any comments, then please write your queries in the comment box of this video, and please like, share this video, and if you're new to this channel, then please subscribe this channel as well and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. Thank you guys for watching, and please visit my website as well, automationtestinginsider.com. We have different notes over here about all kind of testing. So thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to cover an important topic, that is test case review process. So this is an important phase in testing life cycle, guys, important process in testing life cycle. So today we are going to talk about what do you mean by test case review process, and why do we do test case review process, and what are the different types of reviews, and at last we'll talk about like what are the problems which we can find while doing the review process, or what are the mistakes which we can find during review process, and how to rectify them, and how we can improve our testing process. So let's get started. So test case review process is an important process to follow in software testing. Test case should be effective and also follow the standards to write the test cases. So whenever we write the test cases, guys, it should be effective. It should be effective enough to find more number of defects, and also we should follow the standards. Standards is nothing but we should follow the proper naming convention while writing the test cases. We should follow the templates provided by the company, and the steps should be very much clear so that anyone can understand that. After preparation of the test cases, a review are conducted to ensure the completeness and correctness of the test cases, proper flow and maximum test coverage. So these are the points which are taken care while doing the review process. So it should be the test cases should be completed properly, and correctness. So we should write the correct test cases, right? So we need to check whether it is correct or not, like steps are properly written or not. Of the test cases, proper workflow, proper flow. So let's say we are testing any functionality, and we need to check the proper workflow of that particular functionality. So that is written or not, we need to check while doing the test case review process. And maximum test coverage, so whether we have covered all the functionalities or not as part of test case review process. So these are the points which are taken care while doing the test case review process. The test lead or project manager have to approve the test cases. Once review is done, then test lead or project manager approves the test cases. During this review process, if the reviewer find any mistakes, he or she writes in a separate document which is known as a review document, and send it back to the author. So guys, we have a separate review document as well, where we'll write what are the review points, or in some templates in the test case itself, remarks column is there or comments column is there, review comments column. So we'll put our comments there, whoever reviewing the test cases, and we will send it back to the author of the test cases, who will again work on whatever points we have mentioned in the review document. Now let's talk about test case review techniques, or what are the different types of test case review process, right? So the first one is self-review. This is carried out by the tester who wrote the test cases by looking at the SRS or FRD, software requirement specification or functional requirement document. He or she can see if all the requirements are met or not. So self-review, whenever we return the test cases, guys, even we do the review process. So that is nothing but self-review process. Who return the test cases will do the self-review, whether we have covered all the points from BRD or not, whether we have covered all the scenarios and we have properly converted them into the test cases. So that is nothing but the self-review process. Another one is peer review. So before test lead, the test case is reviewed by another team member who is not familiar with the system, is called peer review. Maker and checker are other names of the same thing. So let's say tester, we have couple of tester A and tester B, and this is working on module X and this is working on module Y. So A is not aware of module Y, and tester B is not aware of module X. But whenever we write the test cases, if tester A writes the test cases, it will be reviewed by tester B, and tester B whatever test cases he has written, it will be reviewed by tester A. So like that is nothing but because these two guys are at the same level. So that is what we call it as peer review. And later on it will be reviewed by the test lead or test manager. Maker, we used to call it as maker, and checker are the other two names for the same thing, like peer review. And third one is supervisory. review. This is done by a team lead or project manager who is higher in rank than the tester who wrote the test cases and has an extensive understanding of the requirements and system. So generally what happens, guys, most of the cases we follow these two process, like self review and peer review. These are the mandatory process which we used to follow. Like always we used to do self review and later on peer review, and sometimes it is reviewed by test lead or test manager as well in some cases. So that is not mandatory, but in some cases it is reviewed by the lead as well. So this is about test case review techniques, guys. Now what are the common mistakes which are checked during test case review process? Okay, so incomplete test case, missing negative test cases, no test data, inappropriate or incorrect test data. So these are the points which we review while doing the test case review process. Incomplete test cases, if test cases are not written properly, missing negative scenarios or negative test cases, if test data are not provided, or inappropriate test data or incorrect test data, right? So these are the different points which are taken care during the test case review process. Spelling errors can sometimes cause a lot of confusion or make a statement difficult to grasp. So this is another point which can be checked during the test case review process. Spelling errors can sometimes cause a lot of confusions, right? While review process, it is very important to check whether all the standards and guidelines are properly followed or not. So what do you mean by standards? Whether we have written with the proper naming convention, whether we have used the right template or not, the right version of the template, and some guidelines, the test case written guidelines, whether we have followed all those or not. So that is done during the review process. If proper template is followed, then it becomes easy to add modified test cases in future and test case plan looks organized. Correct? This is what I have talked about. If the grammar is incorrect, the test case can be misinterpreted, right, leading to incorrect findings. And another thing is test cases should have a very simple language which is easy to understand. So which should be very much easy to understand by another tester who doesn't know the functionality of these test cases, right, or this functionality, whatever we have written the test cases. So it should be very much clear, the step by step you should write the test cases. Replication, it refers to the duplicate test cases removal. It is possible that two or more test cases test the same thing and can be merged into one. This would save time and space. So we should always check whether in case of any duplication in the test cases. So this is also done while doing the review process. This can be also checked while doing the review process. Test case which are uselessness due to changed requirements or some modifications. Such test cases must be removed. If some test cases are useless or change requirements, if it is not updated as per the requirements, so those test cases should be modified or can be removed from the test cases template. So these are the different points, guys, about the review process, and it's very important whenever we write the test cases, it should be properly reviewed by our peer or a test lead. So these are the points you should take care while writing the test cases. And still, if you have any doubts or if you want to put any points, then please write in the comment box, and please like this video, share it, and comment as I have discussed if you have any points, and subscribe to this channel as well. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So guys, as a tester, when we write the test cases, once authoring of the test cases is completed, then we do self-review, and once self-review is done, then we go for peer review of our test cases. Once peer review is done, then we go for supervisory review, which is usually done by test lead or test manager. And once that review process is done, they will approve the test cases. Test lead or test manager will approve the test cases. Now we got the final version of our test cases, correct, which is approved version. Now that should be stored or placed, or you can say that can be uploaded to a repository, that is nothing but test case repository, that is called test case repository. It could be your SharePoint, which is provided by a company which you have access, or it could be SVN, or it could be any share folder. Okay, so any kind of configuration management tools, or it could be a project management tool like Jira. So today we'll discuss about what you mean by test case repository, guys. So let's get started. So a test case repository is a centralized location, centralized so that all the team members can access, whoever has access can get the test cases from that repository, where all the baseline test cases, baseline is nothing but whatever test cases are approved. It's not about just test cases, all the approved documents should be placed in repository or centralized location. Test repository comprises test cases that encompass all key possibilities of permutations and combinations in workflow, execution and transaction, ensuring that all variations in system and user interactions are covered. So basically the meaning of this line is, this point is, all the functionalities, whatever we have covered, whatever test cases we have written, should be placed in a repository called test case repository. A test case repository is used to store approved test cases only. This is what we have discussed at the beginning. Any test engineer wants to test the application, then he or she needs to access the test cases only from that test case repository. So let's say if tester A has written the test cases and B is going to execute the test cases, so he will access the repository and get the test cases from there, which are approved ones. Okay, and then he can execute the test cases. If we do not require any test cases, we can drop them from the test case repository. If some test cases are useless or that is not in use, then we can drop from the repositories. Each version have a separate test cases repository. So we should have we should properly maintain in repository, guys, all the versions of the test cases. So this is about test case repository, guys. So if you have any comments, then please write in the comment box. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about an important topic, that is traceability matrix. So what do you mean by traceability matrix? So it is the mapping of requirement to the test cases. So let me just further explain. So whenever we get the requirement and whenever we start the testing process, so it is a document where we map requirement to the scenarios, from scenarios to test cases, and from test cases we map the defects. So this is the complete mapping. This document talks about the complete mapping of requirement to the scenarios, to the test cases and defects. And there are couple of things or couple of advantages of having traceability matrix, guys. So the first thing is complete coverage of the testing. Complete coverage of the testing. How we do the complete coverage? Because we make sure that each requirement has at least one test case, one or more than one test case. Okay guys, so this ensures the complete coverage of the testing. Another point is it helps us to find the root cause of the defect. How we get the root cause of the defect? Because it is mapping to the defects as well. So from defect we will find out like which test case it belongs to. From test case we'll find out what is the scenario, and from scenario what is the requirement. So this is how we can get the root cause of the defect. So this is a very important document, guys, as far as testing is concerned. So let's talk more about traceability matrix. In this document, the test cases are mapped to the corresponding requirement to ensure the coverage of the test cases, to find any gap between requirement and test cases. It is also known as requirement traceability matrix, RTM, or cross reference matrix, RTM or CRM. These are the other names, guys. It is prepared before the test execution process. So basically we have three types of traceability matrix. We have forward traceability matrix that is done before the execution process. So usually we do the traceability before the execution process, but there is another traceability matrix we have backward, which is done after the execution, guys, and another we have bidirectional. So these are the three types of traceability matrix which we'll discuss in coming slides. This document is designed to make sure that each requirement has a test case. The test engineer will prepare traceability matrix for their respective assigned modules, and then it will be sent to the test lead. Later, test lead will consolidate all the traceability matrix, all the documents, and prepare one traceability matrix for the project. So this is how usually we used to do that. So what are the goals of traceability matrix? It allows you to see if a requirement is fully documented or not. A requirement traceability matrix can even call attention to missing requirements. So this is, we used to call attention to missing requirement. It ensures that the software completely meets the customer requirements. A traceability matrix can help in effort to provide proper and consistent documentation for your team. Provide proper and consistent documentation for your team. In the effort to provide, so it helps us to estimate the effort as well. It helps in detecting the root cause of any bug, so which we have discussed at the beginning of this video. So this is the simple sample of traceability matrix, guys. So here I have taken an example of Gmail application. Gmail. So here we have different columns. So we have serial number, and the second one is requirement ID. So here we have business requirement 1, BR1 1.0. So this is how we used to write the requirement ID. And the next one is requirement description. What is the requirement description? Summary of the requirement description. So here we have inbox, to test the inbox of Gmail. Another column we have is scenario. So what are the scenarios for this particular requirement, like for inbox? So we have mails, we have to mails sending the compose the emails, or the second one is reply, and then we have forward emails. So these are the three scenarios, and we have corresponding test cases to the scenarios. So here we have 5 test cases about this mail scenario, right? So here we have written like test case underscore Gmail, the project, and then mail, the scenario, and 01. So 01, 02, these are the test case ID, guys. Now test case description. So summary of the test cases, like check the mail in the inbox, verify the open email, verify the read email, verify the downloads and attachment. So these are the 5 test cases we map to this particular scenario. 5 test cases, right? Similarly, we have reply, so a couple of test cases for this reply emails. Now here we have test results. What is the result of the of our test cases? Like, so out of 5 we have 1 pass, this is also pass, the second one is failed, correct, and there is another one is failed, and we have corresponding, we are mapping to the defect ID as well. So here we map with the defects as well. So here I have given the defect ID, another column. And what is the defect status? So this is in open state, so if it is closed, so we can make it as closed as well. And here we have defect 2, corresponding we have status. So this is how we map to the requirement, from the requirement to the scenario to the test cases and test results and defect ID, guys. So this is the complete tracking of our testing activities, correct, complete mapping of our requirements. So this is traceability matrix. So in the next video I'll show you the real-time template of traceability matrix as well, guys. Now let's move forward to the next slide. What are the types of traceability matrix? So the traceability matrix can be classified into 3 types, which are as follows, which we have discussed at the beginning of this video, which is forward traceability matrix, the first one. This is also called horizontal traceability matrix as well. Another one is backward or reverse traceability, or this is also called vertical traceability matrix. Another one is bidirectional traceability. Now let's talk about each one of them in detail. So what is forward traceability matrix, guys? So forward traceability is used to map the requirements to the test cases, right? So how we do that? So whenever we get the requirement from the customer, when we start writing the test cases, so this is done before the execution. This is done before the execution, test case execution process. So we'll write all the requirements in the document, and then we'll map to each whatever test cases we have authored. So this helps to trace all the activities, right? All the requirements, whether we have captured the required test cases or not. In case of this forward traceability, so not only this will establish that every requirement is being tested from top to bottom, but it will also assist in confirming that project's trajectory is sound. The main objective of this to verify whether the product developments are going in the right direction or not. So whenever we have any change in the requirement, so we'll update the requirement from requirement got it will update by the BA, and then further we'll update our test cases as well, and then we'll map to the right test cases. So this is how it is happening when we follow this forward traceability matrix. So this goes in forward direction, correct? So later on we'll execute the test cases based on whatever test cases we have written, correct? And then we'll map to the whether what is the result of the test cases and then defects as well. This is forward traceability matrix. Now if you talk about backward or reverse traceability matrix, or this is also called vertical traceability matrix. So you can make a backward traceability matrix by mapping test cases with the requirements. So this is just reverse, guys. From the test cases we map to the requirements. So this is usually done after the execution. So once our execution is done, once we got the requirement from the customer, so we have written the test cases, now execution is done. Now from the execution we'll map to the requirements, correct? And this is usually done when there is no scope of changing the requirement in the application. So the reverse or backward traceability is used to check that we are not increasing the space of the product by enhancing the design elements, code, test, other things which are not mentioned in the business needs. So this is the main important point of the backward traceability matrix. So basically we use these when the scope of development is not changing frequently or not changing, right? So the main objective of this, that existing project remains in the correct direction. Another one we have bidirectional traceability. So what do you mean by bidirectional traceability matrix? So bidirectional traceability essentially combines forward and backward traceability into one document. So this is the combination of both, like forward and backward, guys. So and usually done before the execution and after the execution. So from the requirement to the test cases and from test cases to the requirement. This type is useful because it establishes that each requirement has relating test cases. It also evaluates the modification in the requirement which is occurring due to the bugs in the application. Let's say if any particular requirement is not correct and we got the defect, or if any requirement is missing, so this evaluates the modification in the requirement which is occurring due to the bugs in the application. So these are the three types of traceability matrix, guys. So if you have any questions related to any of the traceability matrix, then please let me know. Please write your queries in the comment box, and if you are new to this channel, then please subscribe this channel and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. So probably in the next video I'll showcase you the real-time traceability matrix template. So thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to showcase you the real-time test requirement traceability matrix template. So guys, in the last video we talked about what you mean by traceability matrix and what are the different types of traceability matrix. If you haven't watched that video, then please go and watch that video first and then come back to this video so that you can understand better. So as part of this video we'll talk about this test requirement traceability matrix template and what are the different fields we have in detail. So guys, if you really need this template, then please mention your email ID in the comment box of this video so that I can send this template to your email ID. So let's talk about this requirement traceability matrix in detail about this particular template. So as part of this template guys, we have different fields over here like project name. So we need to mention the project name over here, project ID, project manager, project type, what is the type of project we have. So all the details we need to fill before we start to use this template. And we have create date and last updated on and client name. So these are the different details we need to fill before we start using this template. And whenever we update the template, we need to mention the last updated date over here. Create date will be the start date when we start using this template. Now the next thing is what are the different columns we have, correct? So we have serial number, first one, serial number, and requirement ID. What is the requirement ID? So we got the business requirement document from the customer, or which is prepared by the business analyst. So we have different points over there, right? Business requirement points. So here we need to mention all the requirements point so that we can map to the corresponding test cases. So here we have business requirement 1.0. So if you remember last time I have taken an example of Gmail application. So based on the different scenarios or test cases, I have used this template for now. So here we can see BR 1.0. So we have corresponding what is the requirement description, inbox, okay, and source of requirement. So there are two types of source of requirements. Either it could be new requirement or change request. So this particular, let's say this is just an example, okay. So this particular requirement is new requirement. And what are the different scenarios we have? So we have 3 scenarios: mails, reply, and forward emails for this new requirement, and we have corresponding 5 test cases. So this is how we map from the requirement, right? So 5 test cases we have written for this particular requirement, which is BR 1.0. And here we have in this column, so this is the test case ID column, and here we have test case description, summary of the test cases here. So for 5 test cases we have mentioned like what is the description of each ID, each test case ID. So check the mail in the inbox, verify the open email, whether we can open the email or not, verify the unread email, verify the downloads and attachment in the email, verify to navigate to different pages. Now we have corresponding test results, another column. What are the results of the test cases? So we have pass, fail, like that. And we will map to the defects as well. So here we have mentioned defect 01, and what is the status of the defect at last column. So here we have open defect, or if it is closed then we need to mention like closed. So this is how we we can map different requirements to the scenarios and the test cases and the results and defects. So this is kind of mapping guys for the like all the testing activities. So this is called test requirement traceability matrix. And if we have, let's say if for any project we have different requirements, right? So as part of business requirement document, so we have, this is BR 1.1. So here this is BR 1.0, and here we have 1.1. So similarly we need to write we need to list down all the BR points over here, all the business requirement document, business requirement ID. Now if you see this template, so the first sheet is summary. So this is summary of requirement traceability matrix. So how many what are the total number of requirements? So here we have 16. What are the new requirements? So 9 are the new requirements. What are the change requests? So 7 are the change requests. Requirements approved, so 5 of them are approved, 4 are not approved. Requirements deferred, so 4 of them are deferred. Deferred means we will make into the next release, okay. Requirements rejected, so 3 requirements are rejected due to various reasons, okay. If that is not feasible, or if any requirement is not clear, or maybe it is not I would say like it is not feasible with the application, so we can reject those requirements. That is part of business analyst. So this is summary of requirement traceability matrix guys. Now the last one is, so the first tab is summary, second one is requirement traceability matrix, and third one is revision history. So here we need to mention the serial number and date of the date whenever we update this requirement traceability matrix, what is the version number. So initially we will give like version 1, and date will give, and prepared by what is the, who is the tester who is going to prepare this traceability matrix, and it should be approved by the higher authority. Like if tester is preparing this traceability matrix, then test lead should review it and approve it, and if you have any remarks, then we need to mention in the remarks column. So this is about this traceability matrix, guys. So if you really need this, then please send out please mention your email ID in the comment box of this video, so that I can send you this traceability matrix. So this is all for today, guys, and if you are new to my channel, then please subscribe this channel and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about test execution. So as part of testing lifecycle, we have covered so far requirement analysis, test planning, test design, test execution. So far we have covered till test design. Now today we are going to talk about test execution. Later on we'll discuss about defect reporting and test closure. So these are the different stages in software testing lifecycle. So far we have requirement analysis, test planning, test design, where we have written the test cases. So if you haven't watched those videos, guys, please go and watch those videos first and come back to test execution. So once our test cases are ready, and once environment is set up and build is ready for testing, so what developer does is, once development is done for any particular product, so they will release the software to the testing team for execution purpose, and then we'll execute our test cases as part of test execution process. So there are some preconditions, and we have to set up the environment as well. So let's talk more about what do you mean by test execution and how we are going to test the application in as part of test execution. So in simple terms, test execution is the process of executing the test cases and comparing the expected and actual results. So if you remember, guys, while writing the test cases, we have written expected results, like what will happen when we log in the application, when we enter the username and password and click on sign in button, when we enter the valid username and valid password and click on sign in button. So what should be the expected result? So we should see the home page, right? So that is expected result. So as part of test execution, we execute our test cases to make sure that and compare the expected with actual results, whether we are able to get the home page or not. So that is just an example. So that is nothing but the execution. So we'll execute the test cases once we get the build from the developer. After developer finish the coding and give the build to the tester, tester will conduct the testing and validate the application as per the requirement. So as per the requirement, we have written the test cases. Now it's time to execute our test cases because build is ready, right? The developers will prepare the below document and give the testing team during the build release. So there are a couple of documents they used to prepare. One is SRN, software release note, and another one is DD, deployment document, like how a particular build should be deployed. So one is software release note and one is deployment document. Software release note is nothing but they will give the version and the build name and the product name, all these details related to the particular software they will put in SRN document, and deployment instruction in deployment document. Tester deploy the build in test environment as per the instruction in the release document note. The build is deployed in test environment either by tester or developer. So build is deployed either by tester, developer, or by network team. So once we get the software from development team, guys, so they will send the build, and a tester, either tester, developer, or network team will deploy the build on particular server. I have already spoken about what do you mean by build and release, so probably you can watch that video. I'll provide the link in the description box of this video so that you can understand better. So as we know that after build release, the first test should be performed is sanity testing, right? After sanity test is passed, we will continue test execution and validate all other functionalities. So sanity test will check like whether this build is capable enough of further testing or not. So that is the purpose of sanity testing. So once sanity testing is passed, then we go for the further testing. Test execution can be done either manual or automation. Testing performed by testing performed by tester without using any tool is called manual testing, and when we use any automation tool, that is automation testing. During execution, validate all the test cases and specify actual result and status. So I have already shown you in the test case document, we have expected result and actual result, and we have a status column where we mention like fail or pass based on the whether our test cases is matching with the expected result or not. If the status is failed, we can report that as defect to the developer. Okay guys, so we are going to use the defect report template or any defect tool as well. So there we report our defect if it is not matching with the expected result. So we'll report the defect to the developer. So let's talk about what is software release note. So a release note refers to the technical documentation produced and distributed alongside the launch of new software product or product update. So they will give the release note. So generally we use the release note when we deploy the software into the production. So we'll give the release note. In testing environment also, in some companies we used to get, for some products we used to get the release note as well. And it briefly describes a new product or a specific detail level changes included in a product update. So whether it is a new product or any changes in the product, so it describes in the form of release note. A software release note template is simple document that companies use to document any changes to their product. Elements of release notes template are like build version. So this is what I have discussed: build version, build location, requirement in the build, precondition, environment, deployment steps, known issues, defect files, prepared by who is going to prepare that release note. So these are the some of the fields which are there in the release notes. So this is about execution guys, how we are going to do the execution as part of testing lifecycle. Now in the next video we'll discuss about defect report, and later on we'll talk about defect lifecycle as well. So once we get any defect, so we'll talk about the defect report, how we are going to report the defect, what is the format of the defect report, and what are the different fields which we need to mention as part of defect report. So this is all about today guys. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about defect report in testing lifecycle. So as we all know that we have different stages in software testing lifecycle, like we have requirement analysis, test planning, test design, test execution, defect reporting, and test closure. So these are the various stages in software testing lifecycle. So we have already covered requirement analysis, test planning, test design, test execution, and today we are going to talk about defect reporting. So guys, if you haven't watched the previous videos, then please go and watch those videos first and come back to this video. So as part of this video, I'm going to talk about what is a defect, what is defect report or defect reporting, and we'll discuss about what are the various reasons for which we used to get the defect in the application, and what are the various fields are there in defect report template, and at last I'll show you the real-time template of defect report as well. So let's get started. So let's talk about first what is a defect. So whenever we test any application guys, and if any functionality is not working as expected, so that means there is a defect in the application. So let's say we are testing any application where we have let's say we are testing the login functionality where we have username, password field, and we have sign in button, and while entering the user ID, correct password, and click on sign in button, we are not able to log in into the application. So that means there is a defect in the application, correct? So there is a defect in the application because our expectation is we should get the login page, we should get the home page, or we should get the successfully we should be able to log in into the application, correct? Now we got the defect. Now that defect has to be reported to the development team. So how we are going to report to the development team, correct? So there are two ways we used to report to the development team. So the first way is, like some of the companies are using the Excel sheet. So there are various fields in Excel sheet, or you can say in defect report template. So these are the different fields available in defect report template, which talks about the details about the defect when we raise a defect. Like we have defect ID, we have summary of the defect, we have status, and we have priority, severity. Like that we have various fields in defect report template, guys, which we are going to discuss in coming slides. So this is one of the way to report the defect to the development team. Another way is using bug tracking tool. Like we have Jira, Bugzilla, PR tracking. So we have various tools available in the market using which we are going to assign the defect to the development team. So this complete process is called defect reporting, and this template is called defect report template. And we have the same fields in bug tracking tool as well. Like it generates the unique ID, which is defect ID. We have summary of the defect we have to mention over there. We have steps to reproduce. Like that we have various fields in bug tracking tool as well, which we are going to discuss in coming slides. Now question arises here is why we are getting the defect in the application. So there could be various reasons. So first reason could be missing requirement in the application. So let's say we are developing a website, and that website should have home page, dashboard, admin page. Let's say home dashboard page is there, admin page is there, some other pages should be there, and along with that we should also have about us and contact us page should also be there as per the requirement. But while developing the this website, developer misses this contact us page. So that means there is a defect. We can raise that as a defect. We have to raise that as a defect in the defect tracking tool or defect report template. So this is one of the reasons, guys. Another reason could be wrong implementation of the requirement. So let me give you an example. Let's say we are developing a website. The website name is abc.com, and while launching this URL we should get two buttons over here. One is sign in page, which is for the registered user. When we click on this sign in, we should get the user ID, the login page, user ID, password field, and sign in button. We should get the sign in page. And while clicking on this sign up, right, and this is sign in. So sign up is for the new user, so this is complete user registration page, guys. So what happens here is, let's say while clicking on this sign up, we are getting this login page only, correct? So this is wrong implementation of the requirement. Another reason could be while getting the why used to get the defect is misunderstanding of the requirement. Misunderstanding or misunderstood the requirement by the developer. So let's say as per the requirement in the application, the logo of the application should be displayed. The logo of the company or website should be displayed at the right side of the page on every page of the application. But what happens is, while testing the application, we got that the logo is displayed at the left side. So that means this requirement is misunderstood by the developer. While developing the software, they developed this logo at right side of the pages, right? So we have to raise that as a defect. So these are the various reasons, guys, we used to get the defect in the application. Now let's talk more about the defect report, like what are the various fields are there in defect report template, and at last I'll show you also like the real-time template as well. First let's just recap like what we have discussed so far. So if application is not working as expected, we can report that as a defect in the defect report. And what is defect report? A defect report is a document that has concise details about the defects are identified, what action steps make the defect show up, like reproducible steps, and what are the expected results instead of the application showing error while taking particular step-by-step actions. So basically a defect report is a document where we talk about different details about the defect. we have to mention like defect ID, summary of the defect, status of the defect, and what is the reproducible steps, like what are the actions which we are going to perform to get that defect, correct. Defect reporting, defect tracking, and status tracking is called defect management. So the complete process is called defect management. Some companies use manual process like Excel worksheet, which we have discussed, and some companies use tool based process for defect management. So some of the defect management tools like Bugzilla, Issue Tracker, PR Tracker, and Jira as well. Jira basically is a project management tool, but we can raise the defects over there. So it's kind of complete project management tool. So this is the defect report template, guys. We have various fields in defect report templates, like we have defect ID, summary, detected by the tester who found the defect, detected date, assigned to, severity, priority, status, build version. So let's talk about, let me just show you the real-time template. So we'll discuss about various fields in defect report template as well. So this is the defect report template, guys. So here you can see we have various fields like defect ID. Defect ID is the unique ID which we need to make while logging the defect. Okay, so here you can see defect underscore 01. So this is the unique ID. For defect 2 we have defect 02, defect underscore 02. So this is the unique ID. While logging the defect in the defect tracking tool, also it generates the automatic defect ID when we log any defect in the defect tracking tool, like Jira. When we log in the defect, we used to get the defect ID. Now the second column is login summary of the defect, like what is the description of the defect or summary of the defect. Like login functionality is not working. Here I mentioned like login functionality is not working. And third column is detected by. So who is raising this defect, who raised this defect? So here I have mentioned tester underscore A. Tester A found this defect, and the date on which we got the defect, and assigned to. So assigned to, initially when we raise the defect, when the status is new, so it is assigned to that particular tester, and when we open that defect, so it should be assigned to any developer. So here I have assigned it to developer underscore A. Developer is assigned to this particular defect. And severity and priority. So here we have high severity and high priority, correct. So what do you mean by severity? Anyway, I'm going to talk about them in detail in separate video, but let me just talk brief about what is severity and what is priority. So when we talk about the seriousness of the defect, so that means it is severe defect. Okay, so like we have to give some severity to the defect. Like we have different ranges, like high, medium, low. So if it impacts the functionality of the application, so that means severe defect, correct. And we have to assign some values like high, medium, low. So in this case we have login functionality. So login functionality itself is not working, so that means it impacts the impact of this defect is very high because it impacts the functionality. So here we have given high priority because we cannot move further for the testing. What is priority? So this is importance of any defect. So this defect is very important. Login functionality is not working, so this is very important to fix by the development team, correct. So this is prior defect. I mean we should assign this as a high priority defect, because until unless if we don't fix this, then we cannot move ahead for the testing, right. And the next column is status. We have open state over here, like this is current state of the defect is open state. Now it is assigned to any developer. Now once developer is fixed this defect, they will make it as fixed, correct. Now later on they will make it as retest. Retest means they will assign to particular tester, so we need to retest that defect, and later on once we retest, we have to make it as closed. If it is working fine, closed. If it is not working, then we have to make it as reopen. So there are various states are there, guys, for a defect, which we are going to discuss in defect life cycle. Probably in the next video I am going to talk about defect life cycle. Next video I am going to talk about priority and severity, and later on we'll discuss about defect life cycle, so that you can understand better. And the next column is build version. So here this is the build on which we have tested this application, and we got the defect version 1.5. module is login module. Next one is what is the environment. So we have various environments, like we have test, development environment, UAT environment. So for this particular defect we got on test environment. So here I have mentioned as test. Functional defect type, what is the type of the defect. So here we have, let's say we have functional type or non-functional or performance. So we have various defect types as well. So here I have mentioned functional type because this is related to the functionality. Reproducible, whether we are able to reproduce this defect or not. So here I have mentioned there are two values, yes or no. So here I have mentioned as yes because this issue is reproducible. Sometimes it is kind of incident we are not able to reproduce that defect, so we have to mention it as no, but we have to take the screenshot in that case as well to give the evidence to the development team for further investigation. Reproducible steps. So here we have given the complete steps, like how we got this defect. So like launch URL abc.com, enter valid username, enter password, and click on sign in. And what should be the expected result? User should be able to log in, correct, after following these steps. But what happens is user is not able to log in. Nothing happened when clicked on sign in button. So in some of the defect report templates, expected and actual results are not there, but in some of the templates the actual and expected results are there in the defect report template as well. So after clicking on sign in button, we should get the login page. We should get the home page, right? User should be able to log in into the application. And we have at last comment column as well. So if you have any remarks or comments, so we have to mention in this particular column. Now let's talk about the next defect. So here I have given defect _02. Logo of the company is not correct. So the summary of the defect is logo of the company is not working, which is detected by tester 2 and on this particular date and assigned to developer C. And this is the priority and severity. So here we have low priority and high severity, guys. So why it is low severity and high priority? So why it is low severity? Because it does not impact the application functionality, correct? So that's the reason I have given as it as low. And high priority because logo is very important, right? That represents the company, that logo. So if it is not correct, so that means that is high priority defect. That has to be fixed as soon as possible. And this particular defect, the status of the defect is closed. So like that we have to mention the status as well. This defect has been fixed and closed. And we have build version, we have module. Here you can see the environment on we got in UAT environment, and defect type is functional, like this. So this is what about the defect report template, guys. We have various fields in defect report template. So if you have any questions related to defect report, please let me know in the comment box, and in the next video we are going to talk about priority and severity of a defect. So thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about an important topic, that is defect priority and defect severity. And this is an important interview question as well, guys. So in the last video I talked about what do you mean by defect, what is defect report, what is defect reporting, and I have shown you the real-time defect report template as well, where we talked about what are the various fields in defect report template. So let me just recap what we have discussed so far. So whenever we test any application, guys, so let's say this is my application under test. Whenever we test any application and if any functionality is not working as expected, so that means there is a defect in the application, right? If any functionality is not working as expected, so that is a defect, and that defect has to be reported to the development team to get it fixed by the developer, correct? So how we are going to assign it to the developer, how we are going to report it to the development team? So there are two ways which we have spoken about in the last video. So the first one is some of the companies are using Excel worksheet to report the defect, to raise the defect and report it to the development team. So we have various fields which represents the defect, correct? We have various fields in defect report template. And the second way is using bug tracking tool. Using that we can raise the defect and assign it to particular developer. So these are the two ways, guys, and we have spoken about various fields in defect report template. So we have ID of the defect, we have summary of the defect, the date on which we raise the defect, steps to reproduce, status of the defect. Similarly, we have two more columns, we have priority and severity. While raising the defect, we have to assign these two values as well. We have to give values of what is the priority of the defect and what is the severity of the defect, correct? And the similar way, while assigning the defect, while tracking the defect using bug tracking tool, while raising the defect, we have to give these two values as well, priority and severity. And there are three ranges of values generally we have: high, medium and low for both priority and severity. So this is the topic for today, guys. So basically, what do you mean by priority? Whenever we you might have heard like high priority defect or high severity defect. So what do you mean by that, correct? Which we are going to discuss, and I'm going to give you different examples like high priority, high severity, low priority, low severity, medium priority, like that. So we are going to discuss about different examples as well. So let's talk about what do you mean by severity first. So basically, severity defines the impact of the defect, like how severe the defect and how it impactful, right, to the application which we are going to test. Basically, it talks about the seriousness of the defect, like how seriously it impacts to the application, correct? So that is nothing but the severity. And as we have discussed, we have three ranges: high, medium and low. If you say like high severity defect, so that means it has high impact on the application. If you say like high priority, so that means we cannot go further for testing, like it has a lot of impact on the application, kind of a blocker issue, correct? So that's how we are going to assign like high, medium and low. Low has low priority, which has low priority, and medium has the medium priority, correct? As we it indicates like high, medium, low. If you talk about priority, what do you mean by priority? So basically, priority indicates the importance of the defect, like how soon the defect should get fixed, how soon the defect should be fixed, correct? So again, we have three ranges in priority: high, medium and low. If you say like high priority, so the impact of the defect might not be that serious, okay, it might not be a serious issue if you see the functionality wise, but the priority of the defect is very high, and it could be like high severe bugs as well, high severe defect as well. So priority means, if you assign like, if you say like high priority defect, so that defect should be fixed as early as possible. Similarly, we have medium and low based on the priority. So priority defines the, basically it defines the timeline of to fix the defect, and severity talks about the impact of the defect on the application. Now let's talk more about priority and severity, guys. So let me just recap what we have discussed so far. So severity defines how impactful a bug can be to the system. It can values either high or medium or low. It specifies the seriousness of the defect. If you talk about priority, so priority indicates how soon the bug should be fixed. It can values either high, medium or low. It specifies the importance of the defect, which we have discussed, guys, or the functionality. Okay, so the defect are fixed based on priorities. So whenever we say like high priority defect, so that should be fixed earlier. If you say like medium, so it depends on like how soon it should be fixed, correct? So we have three ranges for priority and severity. Now let's talk about the different examples of priority and severity, guys. So let me just draw a table. So let's say here we have severity, we have defect priority, and here I'll give some examples. So let's talk about high severity and high priority defect. High severity and high priority. So what are the examples, guys? So let's say we are not unable to log in into the application, unable to log in. So let's say we are testing a website and we are able to launch the URL, and while entering the username, password and click on sign in button, we are not able to get the home page, we are not able to sign in into the application, correct? So that is an example of high priority. Why it is high priority? Because this is the importance of defect is very high, correct? This has to be fixed because this is kind of blocker issue, we cannot move further. So that's the reason we have assigned it to high priority. And high severity, the impact is more, correct? The impact is lot because we are not able to log in into the application, so we cannot test further. So this is an example of high severity and high priority. Another example you can say high priority, high severity is, let's say while launching any website, and we are getting 500 internal server error or 404 page not found. So these are the examples of high priority and high severity. Again, why it is high priority, high severity? Because the impact of the defect is very high, because we cannot launch the application itself, because we are getting 500 internal server error or 404 page not found, correct? So severity is very high. And why priority is very high? Because this defect is very important to get it fixed as early as possible, because until unless if it is not fixed, then we cannot move further for testing, correct? So these are the example of high priority and high severity. Now let's talk about low severity and low priority defect, guys. So any spelling mistakes on the web page. So let's say we have a website, and at the end of the page, end of the website or end of the page, we have at bottom we have some spelling mistakes. So that could be an example of, that is an example of low priority, because low priority means it is the spelling mistakes at the end of the page, right, at last page, and that too at the bottom of the page. So that it does not have that much importance, correct? And why it is low severity? Because it does not have any impact to the application. There is no impact if you talk about the functionality wise, correct? So that is an example of low priority and low severity, any spelling mistake. And let's say spelling mistake is on front page, on maybe login page, we have at bottom we have some spelling mistake. So that could be an example of medium priority, but still it will be low severity because it does not have any impact to the application, guys. So this is an example of low severity and low priority, and low severity and medium priority. Any UI defects also, that could be an example of low severity, any UI examples, but priority may vary from low to high, any UI defects. Now let's talk about medium severity and high priority. So let's say we are testing inbox of Gmail page, okay? So we have different emails over here in inbox, okay? And at a time we are able to delete only one email. We are able to delete one email at a time, but while selecting all the emails we are not able to delete that. So this is an example of medium severity. Why it is medium severity? Because we are able to test the delete functionality, however we are able to delete only one email at a time. So that's the reason it is medium severity. But why high priority? Because we might need to delete all the emails together, right, all the emails at one time. So that is an example of high. So that's the reason we have assign it as high severity, high priority defect, correct? So this is an example of medium severity and high priority. Now let's talk about low severity and high priority defect, guys. High priority. So logo of the company is incorrect if logo of the company is incorrect, so that means that is high priority defect, because logo represents the company, so that is high priority defect. Low severity because it does not have any impact on the application. Another example could be for this, like high priority, low severity. Let's say logo is as per our expectation, like as per business requirement, it should be at right side, but developer developed at left side. Okay, so that is another example, because as per the requirement it should be at right place. So that is an example of high priority and low severity defect. So these are the various examples of priority and severity, guys. So if you are not able to get it, then please let me know through your queries. You can comment it in the comment box, and like this video, share it, and if you're new to my channel, then please subscribe this channel and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching, and in the next video we are going to talk about defect lifecycle. So thank you guys for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello guys, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about an important topic, that is defect lifecycle, and this is an important interview question as well, guys. So whether you are doing manual testing or automation testing, you should know what is a defect lifecycle. So basically you should understand what are the various stages of a defect. So guys, earlier we have spoken about what do you mean by defect, what is defect report template, and in the last video we have spoken about what is defect priority and defect severity. So today we'll focus on what do you mean by defect life cycle. So let's get started. So defect life cycle, also known as bug life cycle, is the journey of a defect cycle which a defect goes through during its lifetime. So this is also known as bug life cycle. So defect life cycle or bug life cycle is the journey of a defect basically. So it goes through various status, correct? So while talking about defect report template, guys, we have spoken about status column. So when we raise the defect, we have various stages of a defect, various status of a defect, right? So when we raise for the first time, so the status of the defect would be new, and then when it is assigned to any particular developer, so the status of the defect would be open, and then they will work on the defect, so they will make the status to fixed, and they will assign it back to the testing team, and the status of the defect would be retest. So these are the various stages of a defect, guys, various status of a defect. Whether we are logging the defect in the manual using manual process, using Excel sheet, we have a status column. There we'll change the status of the defect every time when we work on the defect. Any team when they work on the defect sheet, right? Or using any bug tracking tool also, so we have to change the status accordingly. So this is nothing but the various stages of a defect, guys. So this is defect life cycle. So defect life cycle is cyclic process which describes how a defect or bug passes through different stages, from the identification of defect stage to the fixing of the defect stage, correct, to the fixing stage. It begins when a tester finds or logs a bug, and it ends when bug is fixed. So this is nothing but the defect life cycle, guys. So it goes through various stages of the cyclic in the cyclic process, from the identification of the defect to the fixing of the defect. Now let's talk about defect life cycle in detail, like what are the various status of a defect. So whenever we test any application, and if any functionality is not working as expected, so that means that is a defect, right? So we have to raise that defect in the Excel worksheet if you are following the manual process or using bug tracking tool. So what is the first status of the defect? So the first status of the defect would be new. Now we have raised the defect. Now we have to assign it to the development team, right? So it will be fixed by the development team using any particular developer, right? It will be fixed by any particular developer. So the status of the defect would be open when we assign it to any particular developer. So the next status is open. Now they will work on the fixes, they will work on the defect, and they will fix the defect. So the status of the defect would be fixed, and they will assign it back back to the testing team. Now it is our responsibility as a tester. We have to rework on the defect. We have to retest the defect. So what is the status of the defect this time? At this stage, retest. Now while retesting the defect, if we find that if defect is not working as expected, if it is not working as expected, so we will reopen the defect. We will reopen the defect and assign it to development team. So the next status is reopen, and we will assign it to development team. So they have to rework on their fixes, and once again they will fix the defect, they will make the changes to their code, and then they will assign it back to testing team. Again we have to retest the defect, and if it is working this time, if it is working as expected, so what is the last status of the defect, guys? If it is working fine, then we will close the defect, which is the last status of the defect. So this is the complete defect life cycle, guys. Apart from this, we have some other status of the defect, other statuses as well. Like if they are not accepting the defect, if developer is not accepting the defect, so they may reject the defect as well. If they say that defect is, if they not accept the defect, so they will reject the defect. So the status of the defect would be rejected. And then again we have to like follow whether it is really a valid defect or not. We have to assess that, right? Whether we have logged the correct defect or not. In case if you find that if it is valid defect, then we have to showcase them to the steps to reproduce, and they will make it as again open, right? We'll assign it to any particular developer. But in case if they find that if a defect is not valid defect, so they may reject the defect as well. Another status of the defect would be duplicate. If any defect is matching with any previous defect, if any defect is matching with any previous defect, so the developer will make it as duplicate defect. And we have one more status, deferred status. So if any defect is not that much important to fix in this particular cycle, so we may fix that into the next cycle. So that's why we have another status called deferred state. Now one more status we have, guys, not a bug. So if any defect does not impact the functionality much, right? So we have another status, not a bug. We have another status called not a bug. So these are the various stages of a defect life cycle, guys. So this is complete defect life cycle. Now let me just recap what we have discussed so far. So what are the various status we have discussed so far? So what is new status? So new defect is reported is called new status. We have open state, right? Open status of a defect. So the developer is currently working on the defect, that is open state. What is fixed? The code changes are completed and the defect is resolved, that is fixed status. Deferred, developers will fix the defect later in the next cycle, so that is deferred status. Duplicate, the defect is same like one of the previous defect. When previous defect is fixed, it is also fixed, so that is duplicate defect. Retest, the tester starts the task of retesting the defect to verify if the defect is fixed or not, so that is retest. Rejected, developers did not accept the defect, is rejected defect. Close, after retest if defect is working correctly, so that means that is the status of the status of the defect would be close. Reopen, after retest if defect is still exists, then we reopen the defect. And at last we have not a bug, if defect does not have an impact on the functionality of the application, then the status of the defect gets changed to not a bug. So this is complete discussion about the defect lifecycle, guys. If you still have some doubts or questions, then please write your questions in the comment box of this video, and please like and share this video, and If you are new to this channel, then please subscribe this channel and click the bell icon to get the notification for upcoming videos. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hello friends, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So today I'm going to talk about the end phase of testing lifecycle, which is test closure. So earlier we have spoken about different phases of testing lifecycle, starting from requirement analysis, then we have test planning, test design, then we have test execution, defect reporting, and at last we have test closure. So once testing phase is done, then here we go for test closure activities. So this is test closure activities, which is the end phase of testing life cycle, which we are going to discuss today. So test cycle closure phase is completion of test execution, which involves several activities like test completion reporting, collection of test completion metrics, and test results. So once testing phase is done, then we have to provide some deliverables to the client, right? Once testing is done, then we have to provide the results to the client. So the deliverables includes test results. Before that we have test completion report, or you can say test summary report, different metrics like how many test cases, what is the test coverage, how many test cases we have authored, how many we have executed, how many passed, failed, and how many defects we have reported, what is the defect rejected percent, what is the accepted, what are the different accepted defects, and test results basically. Okay, so these are the different documents which we used to prepare before signing off our testing activities. Test closure is a document that gives a summary of all the tests conducted during software development life cycle. So testing life cycle is part of software development life cycle. So these documents, what are the documents which we prepared in test closure activities? So these are documents includes objective met in our test closure activity document or test completion report. So whether objectives are met or not, time taken, what is the testing duration, total cost of testing, test coverage, and any defects found, basically the test results. In other words, test closure is a memo that is prepared prior to formally completing the testing process. So this is test closure, and testing team members meet, discuss, and analyze testing artifacts to identify strategies that have to be implemented in future. So once testing phase is done, then testing team meets together and they'll discuss and analyze the testing results, like their artifacts, like what went wrong and what we can improve going forward. Taking lessons from current test cycle, the idea is to remove process bottlenecks, the problems which we face during the current test cycle, for future test cycles. The entry criteria. So what are the entry criteria and exit criteria for test closure activities? So let's talk about entry criteria first. The execution of the test case is complete. So we go for test closure activities once execution of the test case is complete, once execution is done. And the second thing is test results are available and defect report is ready. So execution is should be completed, and we reports all the defects to the developer and it is fixed by them. So we have defect report is ready, like all the defects are fixed and closed by us. Okay, so that is entry criteria for test closure activities. Exit criteria. What is the exit criteria? So delivered and approved test closure report. So we should have the signed copy of all the approved test closure report. So once it is signed off from the client, so that means that is the exit criteria for test closure activities. Now what are the documents involved in the test closure process? So test completion report is the important, which we have spoken about. So test report is document that contains a summary of all the activities and final test results of testing project. Test report is an assessment of how well the testing is performed. Based on the test report, stakeholders can evaluate the quality of the tested product, and make a decision on the software release. So all the documents when we provide to the client at the end of the testing phase, friends, so those are very important to evaluate the quality of our testing. Another document is test completion matrix. So after completion of testing, various metrics are collected to prepare the test reports, which I have already spoken about. Different metrics like what are the number of test cases we have authored, what is the test coverage, how many tests, what is the execution percentage, and how many test cases we have executed basically, what is the fail, pass, how many defects we have raised, what is the defect rejection. So all these different metrics which we used to prepare during the testing life cycle. So those we need to provide at the end of the cycle. Test results. So this is very important. Test results should be saved and can be produced along with the test cycle closure documents to support the completion of testing execution. Completion of test execution document should have screenshots. So screenshots are very important for the evidence purpose. Let's say if you come across any production issue and we have tested in our testing life cycle successfully, and we have evidence of that as well. So that might be the defect because of some other changes or some other activities or some other functionality, right? So at that point of time we can provide our evidence, the screenshots to the next team, because we have tested it successfully and we have covered that functionality during our testing. So that is the use of screenshots, database query, results, recording, log files, etc. So these are the different artifacts which we used to prepare as part of test results. So this is all about test closure activities. So if you have anything, then please comment, and please like, share and comment if you have any questions. And if you are new to this channel, then please subscribe this channel as well. So thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.